That's right. It's Monday night. You know what time it is. You know what show it is. It's Sports OTHP coming to you live from the lab. CP3. We got Robbie G live from the man cave. We got the ALCS going on right now with Houston trying to make a late push to try to make this a game. They're down 4-2 in the top of the ninth with bases loaded and 2 outs. And man just walked to load the bases. We'll definitely be talking about that shortly when we give our baseball recap coming up right after we do this intro. Then we'll talk about the NBA Finals and the spectacular fashion that the Lakers claim their 17th NBA championship. And I know Robbie has a lot of great little facts and stuff that he was sharing before the show, and I'm sure you'll get a kick out of. Then, as always, 8 o'clock, we're going to talk Washington football team, and we're even going to talk about this quarterback situation with the main man, Mr. Alex Smith, getting back into the game. Unfortunately, it was still a loss, but we're definitely going to talk about that because I had to eat my words on my post game yesterday because I thought that man would never take another snap in the live game action. But as I've always said, I have no problem saying I was wrong, and I was wrong. Excuse me, but I did see the news that Kyle Allen will be starting week 6 if he was healthy. The arm injury that put him out as of right now, he's slated to start for week 6. But we'll get into that in the 8 o'clock hour when we're at Tuesday, and I believe we'll join us for a little while on the day. And then we'll have NHL free agency with all the moves and our performance picks with the recent draft. Robbie has all the news and covered. So we got a full show, even though the sports one by one falling to the wayside. But it's another great night. Robbie, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm just sharing to a couple of different groups. Yeah, it's been an interesting last 24 hours. Obviously, the ups and downs emotionally. I'm excited for the Lakers and to talk about that in the segment that's coming up in just a little bit with our NBA roundtable. But obviously, it was an up and down emotional day for Washington football team. I was happy to see Alex Smith, although obviously you don't want your starting quarterback to get injured. It's a great story. Unfortunately, some of our fans are just expecting too much too soon, and I know that you went in on them yesterday, and I joined you for that. It got even on my day off. I should try to avoid comment sections, but I didn't, and people already want to ship Ron Rivera out of here without ever giving him a shot, and all because they're like, see, it wasn't the quarterback, that we have bigger issues. And he never said that it was only the quarterback that was the issue. He just wanted to address the other talent in the room, but I guess supposedly, switching quarterbacks and not winning the next game should get you fired. And
You know they're going to hear what they want to hear. That's why I kept on trying to refer folks to his press conference. I'm like, did you even listen to the press conference? All you looked at was the headline when it came out on Twitter, and you didn't even listen to what the man had to say and the logic behind what he was doing. Because he broke it down and was very patient. And like I said, they lucky it wasn't me because a couple of MFers would have got dropped in there because they kept on making it repeat itself.
for sure, for sure. Well, since I know that we started a couple of moments late, I do want to be mindful of time to try to get all of these different baseball series in here. So I think maybe we'll bring our two baseball analysts in right now, and we'll break down these four divisional series and preview a little bit of the two championship series in the National League and the American League. So we'll bring in Arun and Brian in right now and ask them a little bit about some of these different series. First of all, hello guys. How are you guys doing? I'll start with you, Brian. Brian, I think you're still muted, maybe? Oh. You don't display. It's not displayed muted, but for some reason the mic's not picking you up. I don't know why.
Let me try taking out my headphones.
There you go. Now it works.
Yeah, let's just try it without the headphones today.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Sounds good.
Man, before we start, I gotta ask you a question. With game 2 just wrapping up with Tampa taking a 2-0 lead, who are you rooting for? Are you rooting for the Astros because Tampa took your team out?
No.
Or because Houston cheated out of y'all in 2017? I was wondering that earlier.
I'm not rooting for anybody, honestly. As far as I'm concerned, baseball's over for me. I'm done with it. I'm done with it for 2020. It's over for me. It's done. It's just done. It's done.
I don't blame you. I understand that.
I could not be mad at that answer because I'm the same way when the Nats didn't even get there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's just start with the Yankees series. I know it's a tough one, so Brian, I'll let you break it down as quickly as you'd like to break it down. But walk us through it. I mean, there was a comeback, but obviously just not enough scoring in the final game. But from your point of view, you can talk about any of the specific games or just general, whatever you think is best.
Yeah, I want to point to, I think this series was great. A great 5-game battle between two teams that hate each other and will probably continue to hate each other for years to come. I mean, this is a rivalry in the making in Major League Baseball. And, I want to talk about Game 2 because I think that's the game that the Yankees really lost the series. I know the series went 5 and they lost Game 5, but Game 2 is the game where they really I feel like they blew it with some really dumb decisions to only start Davy Garcia, their starter in Game 2, for only 1 inning, and then to go to Jay Happ, who was clearly unprepared to come into relief. I think that's where the Yankees really lost the series, was in that game, because they had Tampa, they won Game 1, they had them on the ropes, and then to lose that Game 2 and the way they did is really bad. And yes, they did win Game 4 to force a Game 5, but Game 5 was great. I mean, if you love pitching and defense and all that stuff, all that kind of good baseball stuff, Game 5 is a great game for you. It was 1-1 going into the 8th inning. Cole pitched great. The Rays, they started Glasnow, but he didn't pitch like that particularly long. Their bullpen did a very good job. It was tied going into the 8th when Aroldis Chapman gave up a home run to Mike Brosseau, who had some beef, had some bad blood with him. In the regular season, he threw a 103-mile-per-hour pitch at his head. So this was absolute revenge for Brosseau. And that was pretty much it. It was 2-1 final Tampa Bay. They move on. And as we've seen in the ALCS so far, Tampa's probably the best team in the AL. They look really good. They beat the Yankees in a really tough series. I think that was the real ALCS, if you ask me. The Yankees-Rays series. Whoever won that series was going to go to the World Series. And looks like the Rays are going to do it.
Yeah. Arun, do you have any thoughts on that series before we take a look at the other side of that bracket?
I watched most of that Game 5. It was that Brosseau at bat was pretty critical. Chapman, as Brian said, he threw at his head. And it's like the second playoffs in a row that Chapman's blown. Last year was Altuve. This year was Brosseau. Yankees offense, they got that solo home run from Judge, but I think they just needed more offense. And Cole pitched great. There's not much more you can ask. And I think next year the Yankees are probably, again, they're definitely going to be a team to be reckoned with. So, but I think, this was a pretty great series, and I enjoyed watching it.
Carol, any thoughts before we switch on to the other side of the bracket?
Like you said, I'm not a big AL guy, but it is surprising to see the way Tampa has been pretty much handling their business and taking care of their business. It's like they're ready to get to the big game. They're ready to run away with it. That's what it's looking like right now with Houston. But I still can't count them out. Houston gave a little pushback in this game, trying to tie it late, but came up a little short. So they know what they got to do to win the first two. They got to, bounce back. They lost the, first two to the Nationals last year and, bounce back on the next 3. So we'll see what it goes down, but it's definitely interesting.
For sure. So then the other series was against Oakland. The Oakland series versus Houston. And it was Houston won the first, second, and fourth games. Oakland was able to take the third game in that series. Arun, were you able to watch any of that matchup?
Some of it, yeah. Houston pretty much they're Greinke. He pitched on 2 days rest, and he had this signal which made it look out that they got the multi home run off of him, but it was just the alternative pitch, which was pretty funny. But the Astros, I think they're mentally tough in the postseason. They probably don't have the starting pitching this time around to at least so far to hang with the Rays. But it was a good effort by them to get by the Athletics.
Brian, did you watch any of this series?
I watched a little bit of it. There were a lot of home runs hit. I think there was like 9 combined in one game or something crazy. It was a really powerful slugging series. Oakland's another team that has trouble in the postseason, and the Astros, I really think that all their postseason experience from the past couple of years really helped them. I know they finished under 500 in the regular season, but this regular season was so weird. I don't really feel like that matters. So the Astros came into play as one of the teams to beat in October, and they got it done against the Athletics. It was a good series win for them.
Yeah, for sure. As you were saying, Oakland was able to put up some numbers. I mean, even in their loss, they put up 7 runs. So it was 10, 5, 7, and 11. So that's a fair amount of runs to put up, in a 4-game series. So, and as Carol alluded to, they lost last night to Tampa Bay 2-1, and then lost today 4-2. Well, Carol, I'll let you first. Do you have any other thoughts on the Houston-Oakland series or the other 2 games before I ask our guests those questions?
I didn't catch the game last night, but I caught the last few innings of the game today. Tampa had a shutout going, I believe, until like the 5th or 6th, and then Houston got a run late, and they started trying to get it together in the 9th inning. Just couldn't get it all the way for the comeback or they take the lead. So they're gonna have to go out there. Game 3, they know what it is. If they lose that one, it's pretty much over. So they're gonna have to give all their effort, and so I know you guys are happy with your stands being quiet, so there'll be no banging on trash cans and stuff like that.
It would be a lot more obvious. That's for sure. Arun, any thoughts on this Tampa Bay series with the Houston Astros?
I think the Rays, they have like really stellar pitching as they showed against the Yankees. I think they have the advantage. Altuve, he's been batting pretty well in this series, but I think it's just going to be, it's a tough road being down 2-0. It's certainly doable, but it's going to be hard for the Astros to come back.
Makes sense. And Brian, what are some of your thoughts on the series you don't really want to watch?
Yeah, as I said before, I hope both teams lose. But at the same time, I have to give credit to the Rays. I mean, they're 2 wins away from the World Series. They're doing it as a team effort. Like Arun said, they have great pitching. I could see this being a sweep, honestly. I think Tampa Bay is the best team in the AL. They're going to take care of the Astros for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely myself rooting for Tampa Bay. I mean, not hard. I don't really care about either of these teams, kind of like you don't. But at the same time, revenge story from last year, because, I mean, Houston also beat Tampa Bay on their, run. So I think that would be kind of cool. And I think if you're a Yankees fan, I know it's hard to say, but you kind of want the team that beat you to go all the way, just because that means at least you lost to the best team.
I will say the majority of Yankee fans that I've seen that do give a shit about this series are rooting for the Rays as opposed to the Astros. The majority of the hate is still towards the Astros.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because I thought that it was still a good series with Tampa Bay. It wasn't like Tampa Bay won it by playing like super dirty or something like really, where it was a situation like that. And so I thought it was a good series. And I know a lot of people that are old baseball heads tend to root for teams in their division that do well because it speaks highly of their division. I know that was how my dad used to think.
I am not one of those people.
Right. Right. That also makes sense to me. So I don't blame you for that. But
I've never been one of those people either. I've never been the mindset that they beat me if they win. That makes it better because we lost to the eventual champion. It's still a loss. I don't want to see them celebrate.
Right. No, that's all fair. A lot of people do it differently. So let's take a look at the other side of the bracket, the National League, real quickly. And this one's a pretty simple story because both of them were sweeps, right? So the Dodgers were able to sweep San Diego, and Atlanta was able to sweep Miami. So I'll just open it up to each one of you individually, and you can give your thoughts on both series, and then the matchup that will start again tonight between Atlanta and LA. So I'll start with you, Brian. What were your thoughts on the 2 National League series and your thoughts on this National League championship?
Well, I'll start by saying I didn't see any of the Dodgers-Padres series because it was on very late. And a lot of times it was competing with the Yankees series, so I didn't see any of that series. But the Dodgers are definitely they steamrolled the Padres. They're definitely the best team in the NL. I think we're heading towards a Rays-Dodgers World Series, but I won't count out Atlanta for sure because Atlanta is good. I think Atlanta's the second best team in the NL. I mean, they handled the Marlins pretty easily. I did watch the first game of that series, and the Marlins actually had a 4-1 lead, and Atlanta came back like it was nothing. Like it was an easy comeback for them. They used their offense. Acuna is such a great player. I know he's a little controversial, but he's a great player that's going to be dominant in this league for many, many years. And I know you guys probably don't like him as Nats fans, but he is a stud. And I think Dodgers. I'm going to go with the Dodgers in 6, but I think it could be a good series.
Right. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on the two preliminary, the division series and then the Star Championship series?
Yeah, the Braves pitching was great. Like so far this postseason, they've only given up 5 total runs, and it's the first time in Marlins history that they lost a playoff series. So that's like pretty interesting. And Acuna, like that whole bat flip thing, I'm with Acuna. Who cares like about the code or the unwritten rules? And yeah, the Dodgers, they took care of business against the Padres. They were on fire offensively in the previous round, but it's just like too much hitting by the Dodgers, and that was pretty much it. And I don't know like which way this series is going to go. I think I'm going to go with the Braves, but not by much. But it'll be interesting if there's actually a Dodgers-Astros World Series, but it looks like that's not going to happen because the Astros are probably going to lose.
Yeah, real quickly before I get Carol sick, because I am interested in that. Brian, you might know this because I know that you're a big baseball guy. How often is the number one team from both leagues get to the World Series?
I mean, I don't know the exact amount of times it's happened, but I would say it's happened less and less over the years because of the advent of the wild card and just adding more teams to the playoffs. I think that it's happened less and less. I think the last time it happened, if I'm not mistaken, was 2017 when the Dodgers played the Astros. So I think that was the last time the last 2 1 seeds made it from each league. But like I said, I think it's going down less and less each year because of the wild card. And if they add more playoff teams, I think it's going to happen even less than it's happening now. So I think it happened a lot for sure.
Yeah, it used to happen I thought a lot, and then I felt like it had happened less over the years, but I wasn't sure.
And I would say the main reason, and because of that, is the wild card and the advent of more playoff teams. That's what's causing it.
Yeah, well, that's good. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on potentially top teams making it to the end, and also just your overall thoughts on the National League playoffs so far?
I mean, it makes sense with this COVID situation that I guess it makes more sense that the top seeds will, because they played themselves in a position and have had the mindset and taking care of their business. So it's interesting that it played out this way. Last year it was the Nats being the wild card, making it to the World Series. But it's definitely interesting. I didn't even think about that in the big picture. You guys always had the behind the scenes stats questions that caught me off guard on that. But about the series, I was definitely disappointed that both the teams I wanted to win got swept. I kind of feel the same way Brian does about the Tampa series and the Dodgers and Braves. I really don't care. I hope they both lose, and I guess I'll be rooting for an AL team.
Right, that makes some sense too. I also don't like either of those teams, although I guess I kind of would root for Atlanta a little bit more, maybe because I feel like LA just won with the Lakers, and Atlanta could use they've had some heartbreak in recent championships and things of that nature.
But the Braves won the World Series last in 1995, and the Dodgers won the World Series last in 1998. So
that's true.
Dodgers have been waiting longer than the Braves.
Yeah, interesting. I still think that they would be like Lakers fans could still be happy, and Atlanta fans. I'm kind of for all different fan groups being happy, and it's just really kind of I don't know. I felt like it would solidify that the East was a pretty good division. I know that Carroll doesn't subscribe to that as a theory, but I also just really hate LA Dodgers for previous like playoff disappointments, right? And I know that we kind of wrote that wrong last year, but I don't have that same animosity towards Atlanta. I mean, I don't like them because they're in our division, but I don't have that like playoff animosity towards them, which is, Brian would agree that that's a whole different beast, right?
Yeah.
So
yes,
we definitely have.
With you touching on Acuna, I did want to talk about that a little. I watched some of the series and some of his antics. I'm not a fan of it. I'm always on the thin line of arrogance and cocky. I don't mind cocky, but arrogance gets on my nerves, and I'm starting to see that from him a little bit. And now if they win the title, then I can say it's justified. But that's why I guess I'm a big Juan Soto fan, because you don't see those antics from him. He showed up with the bat flip and taking to first base, but he doesn't initiate those things. He reacts to those things, and he doesn't play that way and doesn't have that mindset. He's a more humble guy, which is something I like. Acuna, and you know how I feel about that damn Freddie Freeman. I can't wait till he damn retired. Hitting his sleep, man. This shit is ridiculous.
All good points. Brian, do you have any thoughts on any of that?
I mean, I'm on the other side. I'm okay with the bat flips. I'm okay with the flamboyancy and all that in baseball. I want more of that. I think you should let the kids play. The slogan this season, before the pandemic, the slogan this season was "Let the kids play." And I think we need to let the kids play and be flashy and bat flip and do all that stuff.
I love bat flips. Don't get me wrong. I love the bat flips. But when you showing up the pitcher, staring them down, and sometimes it's, previous animosity, I get that. But not every time. You make your point. You hit a home run, do your thing. And then, he did get hit because he stared him down and made a big deal out of the home run. That's part of the game. So don't act like you want to, charge the mound and you upset. You started the ball rolling by staring at him, staring him down, and, taking that slow walk and that bat flip to first base when you hit your home run. So what's going to happen. So don't get in your feelings when what's going to happen is because you initiated it. Come on, man. That's all I'm about it.
I see what you're saying, Carol, but I also I am of the belief in player safety. The guy, it slips and you're throwing at somebody, you could cause a lot of damage for like a guy giving you a look.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I don't know if, luckily it was just, it wasn't like he caused damage, so I think it's probably fine. But like
lower back here, it wasn't like he was aiming for his head or anything.
But the one time it slips and it hits somebody in the head, it's going to become a big deal.
I was making that same argument when y'all.
Yeah, I remember you were. That's why.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, but that's part of the baseball, you know what I'm saying? But you're not going to try to throw at their head. You had some situations with Houston earlier where things were getting dangerous because, some folks didn't give a damn and was throwing close to the head. So, but in those situations, that's just some of those unwritten baseball rules or whatever. But what's going to happen, especially in a playoff game, and you're, showing up the other team. I mean, there's going to be some type of retaliation. It's coming, and once you get that ball rolling, and that's when it gets ugly. But luckily, the umpires, calmed it down, did nothing else. I don't think nothing else really popped off in there. But I just don't like that. I don't like the bat. I love the bat flips. I love, sometimes to me you can go too far.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. All right, well, let me just run down the quick schedule just so people know what time to tune in for the different games this week. And then after that, we'll switch over to NBA talk, our last NBA talk of this block. So we've already talked about the game. It was 4-2 Rays today. The Braves play the Dodgers on Fox at 8:08, so I already have that game flipped. So we'll give some scoring updates throughout the night on that one as that comes across in hour 2 of our show. On Tuesday, both games are being played again, but I have it as to be determined of the timing for that, which is crazy that they haven't already announced those times, at least not in the app that I'm looking at. But I haven't.
That's for tomorrow?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know how that. I mean, usually like Yahoo Sports is the best one for it. So if anyone has a time, feel free to do it. But I'll just say which games are which days. The Braves, Dodgers, Rays, Astros are both on Tuesday. They both play on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then on Sunday would be the Game 7 for Braves, Dodgers, and Game 7 for the Rays Astros would be on Saturday, I guess.
I just looked it up. Braves Dodgers is at 6:05 tomorrow, and Rays Astros is at 8:40.
Okay. Interesting. It just
Yep.
didn't have those times. Do they have other days stuff, or is it just that one?
Yeah. Wednesday is Dodgers, same thing, 6:05 and 8:40. Thursday is TBD. Everything after Wednesday is TBD.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you, Brian. Yeah,
Yep.
no
problem.
Usually that app is good. All right. Well, that sounds good. Carol, any final thoughts on baseball before we switch it over to basketball?
Nah, just like I said, I guess I'll be rooting for an AL team this year. I'm not fans of the Dodgers, definitely. And I can't root for the Braves because I can't root for the division.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. I will
slide out and let you guys talk about the NBA Finals. You might get a voiceover a couple of times from me. I might have something to chime in if the conversation gets good like I anticipated it would be.
That sounds good. Always welcome. All right, sounds good. Let's bring in DC's People's Champ next, and Tim as well. And we've got them. Tim, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about the finals and the LA celebration.
Yes, and DC's People's Champ, you are very much in the dark, but I saw the championship trophy, but we may need to put on another light or something in your room. But we can sort of see
what's going on. Now I'm in the shadows because I'm ashamed to be a Washington football team fan the way this fan base is acting.
Right, that makes total sense.
Like in a hostage video.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel that way sometimes with this fan base too. I was on way too many conversations today, and we'll save that for the next hour. But oh my God, the fan base! It's like you either got to win now or you're out. You know, they don't understand what a rebuild is. It's a concept. So
I tell you, Robbie, you should have left it alone, man. Play out them groups on the day after a loss, man. You would lose your whole day talking to folks in there because they are so emotional. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. All right, well, let's switch to the NBA for a little bit, and then we can get back into football talk in hour two. So the series went exactly how all of us predicted. Remember how we all said that it would be in 6? And I was like, it's okay for us all to pick it because if that's what we truly believe, then that's what we truly believe. So credit to all of us from not stepping away from the 4-2. We all thought that it was exactly how it was going to be. And if we remember, I actually called it that way. If they would win one of the first 3, they would then they'd lose one of the first 3, and then they would kind of go every other from then on until they won it all. And that's exactly how it happened. So on Tuesday, the Lakers won 102-96. That was the Lakers took an early lead in the first quarter, 27-22. The Heat kind of stormed back a bit, 25-22 themselves in the second quarter. Lakers outscored them 26-23. Then they outscored them 27-26 in the fourth quarter for, again, a 102-96 game. It was a very close game. LeBron put up 28, 12, and 8. Anthony Davis put up 22, 9, and 4. And the Heat were led by Butler once again with 22 points. And Butler had 22, and Hero had 21 points. Butler also had 10 rebounds and 9 assists in that game. Just a gutty effort by both teams, but the Lakers pulled out the victory. I'm going to start it off with Arun. What were some of your thoughts on this matchup?
That game was surprisingly close, like down the stretch in the fourth quarter. I think this was probably the game that, like, Game 6 wasn't close at all. This was probably the closest game that Miami will look back. Like, Jimmy Butler missed that wide open 3 from the corner, and then I believe LA got a 3 after that, and then it was like pretty much over after like that game for that game specifically. And Jimmy Butler couldn't put up back-to-back great performances. Like, he was great in Game 3, but he couldn't really do it in Game 4 with Anthony Davis. Was a big adjustment. He was guarding Jimmy Butler, and the Lakers thought they had like the edge after this one.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All right, we'll go to Brian next. Brian, what were some of your thoughts on this game, Game 4?
Yeah, this was a very close game, actually, for a large portion of it until until the Lakers pulled away at the end. You mentioned it. LeBron and AD were just too strong for. I mean, this could be the whole story of the series. Honestly, LeBron and AD were just way too strong for the Heat. Another good night for Jimmy, but he wasn't able to put the team on his back again. And ultimately, the Lakers just pulled away. It was, this win put them up 3-1, and everybody. I mean, I kind of had a sense when they went up 3-1, the finals was pretty much over. I didn't see Miami making any chance of a comeback. Only one team's ever come back from 3-1 down before, and LeBron James was on that team, of course. So, I just didn't see much of a chance after this series. I thought it was after this game. I thought it was pretty much over from there.
Yeah, it makes some sense. I kind of thought so too, and in fact, I was thinking kind of sweep after that, which, I was like, oh, maybe my prediction's wrong. They were going to have the Kobe jerseys and all that sort of stuff. It just seemed like they were primed. But I did think originally that the Heat would become resilient and you'd see the Heat come back. But we'll stick with Game 4 for a little bit longer. Tim, what were some of your thoughts on Game 4?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge game for the Lakers. AD hit a really clutch three with about 40 seconds left that basically iced the game. The Heat had a little bit of momentum because they had won Game 3, and they got Bam back for Game 4, but he didn't play very well really after he came back. All 3 games. Honestly, I think he was still a little bit hurt and just wasn't his normal explosive self. And the storyline, I mean, it might be kind of overblown BS, but LeBron texted his teammates during the day before game 4 that this was a must win, and if we don't win, we're not going to win the series. So maybe he deserves a lot of credit. I'm sure there's been a lot of game day text messages that say a game is must win that they then lose, but you don't really hear about it. So that's kind of an interesting storyline. But yeah, I mean, the Heat kept it close. They couldn't hit big shots at the end. So, that was really curtains for them. Any hope of really them coming back kind of died with that game.
Yeah, so I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If anyone has any questions for the roundtable, feel free to shoot it, and I'll bring them up. But I want to get, Champ, your take on Game 4, and then we'll move on to Game 5.
So there were 2 games out of these 6 games that were the most competitive. Game 4 was the second most competitive game I saw out of the series. The Heat really were scrappy. They fought. Jimmy Butler tried to do what he could to put this team on his back. Tyler Hero. It seems like Tyler Hero has perfected that floater shot, that running floater, because every time I see it, he just nails it. But I mean, again, it was the talent and team of the Lakers that were the better team on this night. But again, Miami didn't go away. They did not go away. They stayed in the fight as long as they could, but it just got to a point where between LeBron and AD and KCP and all them, it just wasn't enough for the Heat to outduel them in this game. So, but this was the second most competitive game in the series, in my opinion, how competitive and how close it was.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a great game, and just breaking down the scoring for Game 5, and then we'll get into that one. This was sort of that surprise game. I originally, when we was looking at the series, thought that the Lakers would lose it, but then I was like, the Lakers have so much momentum from the last game. I thought that it might be a little bit different. So it was a very close first quarter. The Heat outscored them 25-24, but then the Heat were able to put up 35 points in that second quarter to the Lakers 32. They were able to outscore them by 2 again in the third, 28-26. The Lakers came back and made a good run of it, outscoring the Heat 26-23, but the Heat were able to edge them out 111-108. And there was some questionable officiating down but I thought that the Heat really also performed at an incredible level. Just going through a couple of stats, Butler put up 35 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. Robinson put up 26 points as well. All 5 of their starters were in double-digit scoring. And the fact for Butler to get triple doubles in both of their victories was pretty impressive. I'm going to start, and we're going to go in reverse order this time. I'm going to start with you, Champ. What were some of your thoughts on this win for the Heat?
So for people who are listening, I mentioned there were 2 games I felt were the most competitive. This was the most competitive of the series. And you got to take your hat off to Jimmy Butler. That dude only sat for a total time of 48 seconds in that game. He went 47 minutes in that game to try to get them inch them back closer to trying to get that chip. That's what you call a leader, is someone trying to put the team on his back. And they fought, they scrapped, they fought hard for that guy. He fought hard for his team, and he was able to put it, they was able to put it all together to give the Lakers something of a chance until Sunday happened, but we're not there yet. But yeah, Jimmy Butler, 47 minutes and a triple-double, just unbelievable in such a competitive game. That was probably the best game of the series, in my opinion.
Sounds good. I know Carol wanted to give his thoughts on this game. So, Carol, I know that you're not on screen, but I'll get the voice of Carol.
Yeah, you know, it feels good to be, you know, to just be the voiceover for a change.
God?
I'm not going there yet. But I'm just picking back on what Champ was saying about Jimmy Butler. I saw that line. You know, I'm not a big basketball guy, but to see that line and to see the fact that, like you said, he only rested 48 seconds. It was, you know, that's the heart of a champion right there. You know, he was trying his hardest to will his team, you know, into a, you know, uphill battle against the almighty Lakers, and to see that effort from, you know, a player in this era of basketball, you know, it made me say, okay, they are still some ballers in the NBA that actually do take it seriously, and not just as, you know, I'm here to play ball, but make money and, you know, go to the club and bling bling and all of that. So it was just good to see, you know, a young player putting out that effort, trying to, you know, get that championship, and unfortunately they came up a little short.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's some good takeaways. I was really impressed by the Heat. I mean, I watched all of the post-game stuff yesterday, the championship, and listened to all the talking heads talking about it, just because it was kind of hitting me that this is kind of the end of basketball for a couple of months. And they were saying, you know, just how amazing the storyline for the Heat is and how they've got a lot to be excited about for their future. You know, this isn't the end of the Heat story. It might just be the beginning. You know, they kind of remind me a little bit of the Mystics a couple of years ago, where they made it to the championship and had a great run, but couldn't put it all together that year. And then they had like a run it back campaign where they tried to get it and bring it all the way back. And then they were able to win it the following year. I would not be shocked if something like that happened, you know, with this Heat team, especially as the young core develops. Brian, what are some of your thoughts on this game and overall on the Heat, if you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, I thought Jimmy Butler was amazing in this game. I know you don't normally get finals MVP votes if you lose the series, but I feel like Jimmy probably got a couple with his two great performances and the Heat wins. He really put the team on his back. I mean, of all the people who, yeah, I mean, this finals was huge for Jimmy Butler. This elevates him, in my opinion, I mean, he was already a huge name, but I feel like this elevates Jimmy Butler into a household name, a superstar. And with his incredible performances in games 3 and 5 of the series, just a great performance from Jimmy. And as far as the Heat goes, you know, I obviously this is a tough loss from them. It always sucks to lose in championship round, whether you're a huge underdog or whatever, what have you. But they will be back. I definitely believe the Miami Heat will be back. They might even add to their team. I mean, there have been rumors about Giannis to Miami for a long time. I mean, when that happens, that could change the whole NBA. But even if that doesn't happen, they're set up for a while. They've got great rookies in Robinson and Hero and Nunn who get the job done for them on the night in, night out basis. They've got great depth. They're just a good team. I mean, the Heat are set up for to be a presence in not just the Eastern Conference, but arguably the whole NBA for quite some time.
Sounds good. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on this game and the Heat overall?
Yeah, I think a couple of things that were really key for the Heat to win Game 5. The first is the extra day rest was huge because I've never seen an NBA player as tired as Jimmy Butler at the end of that game. And imagine if he had one less day rest. I don't know if they would have pulled out in the fourth quarter there. And Duncan Robinson scoring 26, probably the best game of his career. He hit a big three and got fouled late in the second half. And as far as the Heat in the future, I mean, they're going to be a contender for years. They have one of the best coaches, one of the best GMs, great franchise. Like Brian said, a lot of their best players are first or second year. And so if they can add one more piece, like one more, I mean, Giannis would be great, but even another wing like that, they could contend, at least in the East for years.
That makes sense. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this game?
Jimmy Butler was great, as everyone said. Like, I think the thing that most impressed me was he went to the free throw line 12 times, and despite being as tired as he was, he made all those free throws. I think LeBron made the right play. I'm glad we didn't talk about that, like passing it to Danny Green. But Markieff Morris, I think he got deer in the headlights. But everyone was wide open and just threw it out of bounds for like no reason. But overall, Duncan Robinson had as many points as Anthony Davis, and when that happens, he'd have a really good chance to win.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was on another podcast earlier today, or in their comment section, and they were using me as kind of a third member because we were chatting about some of these issues. One of them was that final shot. I mean, Danny Green was getting a ton of flack for it, but in my mind, a cold Danny Green versus a hot LeBron James, I'm not sure that I understand that the way that it was set up, it's the correct NBA play, but you also have to understand that LeBron is, arguably like the greatest player of this time period. I think they've got to design a play more for him or for AD. I love Danny Green. I've liked him, since his North Carolina days. I just don't think he was set up for a whole lot of success in that. And I think Keefe just misplayed it. I think that he thought, AD was going to, go one direction after the rebound, and he ended up floating the other way. So I think it ends up looking like a worse, thing from Keefe than it really was. It's obviously a mistake. But overall, I just thought, they could put this together, the Heat that is, a couple of times, but, you could only be put on the back of Butler so many times. And then you add a Drago and sometimes, and this happens in a lot of different sports, even if you add one of your best players back into the mix, sometimes you guys just won with like the backs against the wall mentality with less players. And sometimes it's hard to throw another guy into the mix, even though he didn't have a ton of shots in that game. He did have a couple of misses. And I just think, obviously if Dragos can play, you put him in, right? But at the same time, I'm not surprised that by putting him in, it could have just altered the chemistry enough, especially early on when the Lakers were just on fire. And the end result of this next game, it looks closer than it really is, but I'm going to go through some of the scoring. It's definitely not as close as the final score said. I mean, the Lakers came out early, 28-20 in the first quarter, but then they put up 36-16 in the second quarter, which made it the second largest halftime lead in NBA history for the finals. And so that's a tough road to climb, especially with two All-Stars. And it was just a difficult road from there. I mean, the Lakers outscored them 23-22 in the final, and the Heat made it look good in garbage time by scoring 35 points in the fourth quarter. But even though it's only 106-93, it was very much a blowout. LeBron James, I think, clearly deserves to be the MVP. I thought that AD played a great first two games, and there was a lot of question marks going into it. And if AD had kept up that magnificent streak, I think there would have been a real debate there. But LeBron was just consistent in every game. Not to say that Anthony Daniels wasn't great, but it was the consistency in which LeBron did it. His numbers were pretty outstanding. And it just, overall was able to put up a ton of really great numbers. I mean, his scoring line, he scored 28, 40, 28, 25, 33, and 25 for all of those. And he had almost double-digit rebounds and almost double-digit assists, if not having them in every game, and now owns, I believe, the NBA Finals record for most triple-doubles. And I think also is up there for the playoff record for most triple-doubles. I know he's top two. Arun, do you know if that's true?
He's up there. He's probably has like the most triple-doubles, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think he's one or two in that statistical category too. And now he's played the most NBA Finals games. So, this is an interesting storyline because obviously as a Wizards fan, I hated him back in the day when he whispered stuff into the ears as a Cleveland Cavalier. Then he had the decision bullshit, went to the Heat. I know that he had to learn to win. I had a little more respect for him when he went back to Cleveland to still try to find a way to win it for his hometown. I definitely gained even more respect when they had to go against, Golden State Warriors and come back. But really this year and what he said about social injustice and fighting for Kobe and leading the Lakers, and the fact that the Lakers are a team that I don't, that I actually like, as I'm clearly wearing a Kobe jersey. I started to be like, oh, I can root for them. And I can't say that this Lakers run in the championship was the same feeling I had when Kobe won it in any of Kobe's championships. But I still found myself rooting for them. I thought it was a great story. I think he said all the right things. And I have a newfound respect for LeBron that I did not have before this season. I did not expect that 10 years ago that I would be saying things like that. But let's break down this final game. I'm going to start off with the DC's People's Champ. What were some of your thoughts on this final game?
There's an old there's an old saying, looks can be deceiving. People will look at a 13-point victory for the Lakers and think, oh, Miami was in it. Nah, Miami got boat raced. They got boat raced and then some. It was not close at all throughout the entire. I mean, maybe part way through the first quarter, it looked like they were going to compete, but all of a sudden, like in the second quarter, it was like Lakers were off to the races. They just said, you know what? We're done playing with y'all. We're done having fun with y'all. Now it's time to just finish you off. It's like Mortal Kombat. Finish him. And they finished him. It was a clear boat race. And it's sad because Miami's such a good team. They didn't deserve that, but the Lakers are just such a better team. And for people out there trying to put an asterisk on this, don't do that. Don't do that. They earned this. They had to sit in a bubble for 3+ months away from their families for this. There's no asterisk on this championship. This is a legit championship. They earned this, period. That's all I got on that.
No, that's a really good point because, after the game, there was talk of the asterisks. Scottie Pippen wanted to put it on because, you don't have to deal with, road crowd noise and the hassles of traveling, which is all part of it. But honestly,
we gotta shut the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing where I think that it's harder, the mental game, to try to be the isolation, the being away from your friends and family, away from your routine. And some family did get to go to the bubble, which I was happy to see. But if you went to the bubble, you basically had to quarantine yourself and go through all the same restrictions, right? So then you're putting all that stress on those family members too. And so I was thinking about Anthony Daniels. He had Anthony Davis. Thank you. His dad was with him the whole entire thing for 30 days, right? He gutted it out. And what an amazing story for his dad to be able to be there courtside and be able to be a part of that victory for him. So, I thought that was a great story. I agree. It wasn't as close as people thought it should be, but there definitely shouldn't be an asterisk. If anything, in some ways, this is harder. You could put an asterisk on it just to describe that it was a different story, but it definitely wasn't any easier. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on this final game?
Well, I looked it up. Actually, Magic Johnson still has more playoff triple doubles, 30 to 28. So LeBron probably will break it next year, but that's a cool stat. As far as Game 6 goes, it really was embarrassing. I could barely watch the second half. This game was over in the middle of the second quarter. And, Dragic, he did not play well. He didn't start. He really didn't make a difference. It probably would have been better to give his minutes to Kendrick Nunn or somebody else. And there's no asterisks. Every team had to deal with the same situation. They were the number one team in the NBA and the best conference of the NBA. They have the most talent. I would say the NHL has more of an asterisk because those teams were all a little bit different after the break, and the NBA was still kind of the same. So, that's just hater talk. Scottie Pippen's kind of a hater, so I'm not surprised. But, the Lakers and Heat might play again next year. I think both teams are going to be highly touted. Both teams have a lot of talent. They're going to keep most of their players. So, maybe this will be some sort of East-West rivalry like the Celtics-Lakers of old. Be kind of cool.
Yeah, Brian, what are some of your thoughts on this last game and the overall playoffs?
This game kind of reminded me of Game 6 between the Lakers and Celtics in 2008, where the Celtics just completely blew out the Lakers, and it wasn't even close, on their way to clinching the finals. And Rajon Rondo played in that game too. And I just want to bring up Rondo because he was such a huge part of this Lakers team. I mean, you can make a case that he was the third best player on this Lakers team. I mean, not Kuzma or Caruso or Howard, but Rondo really brought a lot to this team, and you saw it in this game. I mean, he was just killing it in this game. It's LeBron won 82, but Rondo was definitely, in my opinion, the third best player in this series for the Lakers, and the Lakers deserve to be champions. I mean, they were the best team in the NBA before the bubble happened, and they were the best team during the bubble. I mean, they only lost 5 or 6 playoff games. I mean, they dominated this thing. They deserve to be champions. There's no asterisk, in my opinion. And everybody I don't know how people do it, but people will find any way to criticize LeBron James. No matter what he does, the guy just can't win. Like, people will criticize him for anything. And I absolutely, like, when he said last night, "Give me my damn respect," that really spoke to me, because I understand I understand that must be really frustrating. People do not respect LeBron James. They will come up with any reason to hate on LeBron James. And it's frustrating sometimes to argue with people like that, because he's such a great player. He's a brilliant talent, arguably the second best basketball player of all time. And yet people continuously find ways to hate on him. And it's very frustrating sometimes.
For sure.
I will give a shout out to LeBron, though, for the premium cigar he was smoking after the game. That was an Underground shade for anybody who likes cigars. That's a good cigar, by the way.
Nice. All right, before I get Arun's thoughts, I just wanted to bring up a couple of quick things. First of all, Frank Vogel, who got fired by Orlando Magic the year before, right? And obviously they must have thought he wasn't good enough for them. What a blessing for him, right? To get to go to the Lakers and win a championship in his first year with them. He's always been, I thought, an underrated coach, and he was able to show what he could do with some real talent. Rondo got the 17th championship for both Boston and the Lakers. So he took the record for Boston, gave it to them, and now he's given a tie to that same record for the Lakers. And I just thought that's so interesting, right? Because how Boston fans must be feeling this morning, knowing that, Rondo, who gave them their last championship, or was a big part of it, because what Brian was just saying, you need good guard play. Like, you can have amazing bigs, but if you don't have a guard that can distribute it and make the right plays down the stretch, you probably don't win championships. And so he, even off the bench, was able to have amazing guard play. As you were talking, as we were talking about it, AD winning his first championship, both Danny Green and LeBron winning a championship with 3 different teams, I don't believe has ever been done before, either one of them. And then LeBron James won Finals MVP with 3 different teams, which I don't think that's ever been done before. And the last thing I wanted to bring up right quickly, I wanted to share a screen real quick. Let me see if I can do this real fast on the fly. But I wanted to give a congratulations to a couple of former Wizards. And let's see, does this
Keith?
work? I wanted to give...
And Dwight.
Yeah.
And Jared Dudley.
There we go. And there they are. So you've got 4 of them.
My man.
Yeah. So you got Keith, Howard, Jared Dudley, and McGee, former Wizards, winning it all, with the first 3 winning their first championship. So Keith, Howard, and Jared Dudley had never won it before. McGee had won with the Golden State Warriors. So I just wanted to show this picture on screen and give them just a little bit of a shout out. I thought this was a cool picture earlier. So that's 4 former Wizards, to try to bring it back to Wizards talk, which is, I know we always do. But Arun, with all that being said, what were some of your final thoughts on this championship?
Like the Heat, I think, like, I didn't get to this in the last answer, but I think they can look forward to getting their leading scorer back, like, going into the playoff, Dragic at 100%. I think I don't think he was the reason why. He definitely wasn't the reason they lost the game. I think they were +2 when he was on the court, but he wasn't a factor. Jimmy Butler, he did put himself in the top 10 conversation, but then I think with this performance, he tried to take himself, like, out of it. But he was, like, gassed. I can't really blame him. That's Ken alluded to, that 47 minutes and 12 seconds. Like, anyone's going to be tired from that. But I think the Lakers, that if there's an asterisk, it just means it's different. I don't think it's because they shouldn't get any less credit because of it. They were clearly the best team. The only chance the Heat had going into Game 6 was if Anthony Davis actually injured his ankle. that's like probably why the Heat may have had like a slight window opening, but they defended the rim. Miami was scared to shoot layups. They're not a good 3-point shooting team when they don't have Dragic, and overall like they look like they're the favorites next year, and we'll see what happens going forward. Rondo's also in the top 10 in triple doubles along with LeBron James too, which is pretty. But LeBron has 28 and Rondo has 10, but still pretty incredible. It's between him and KCP, who's like third best player. And yeah, that's a lot of former Wizards that's won a championship. It's like the Detroit Pistons, who I think they had like 5 former Wizards, but those guys were obviously more important on the Pistons team that won. But overall, it's been a great season, and I guess the Wizards can look forward to the draft. And I don't know, it's like all those players. I think the longest one is Markieff Morris and JaVale McGee, and it's great that they won. Dwight Howard hit a 3-pointer in Orlando. So it's kind of funny because he's from the Magic, and everyone's saying, can you imagine that he hit a 3-game clinching 3? So yeah. It was pretty incredible. The Lakers, they're probably the favorites, even without the bubble. So I don't know why people are trying to take it away from them.
That sounds good. All right, well, we're running out of time, but I really appreciate all of you guys so much for all of the great, Wizards / NBA talk this whole season. And we'll definitely, when the Wizards and the NBA resume, we'll bring you all back in. Just quick, like 1 minute goodbyes. I'll give each one of you. We're going to keep DC's People's Champ on for the next segment, but I'm going to start with you, Tim.
I've just had a lot of fun hanging out with you guys and talking NBA. We don't even know when the next season is going to come back, but I think the bubble format was genius. I wish the NFL would go to that format because I don't know if they're even going to finish their season. That's all I've got. Shout out to RG3. That's it. I'm out.
All right, Brian, any final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Tim said. The bubble was an absolute success. The NBA deserves like a standing ovation for what they did, honestly, in Orlando. I mean, to pull this off and to have no positive tests, I mean, what a great show for the NBA. I mean, this was great for the sport. I wish more people watched it, but it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was the lowest rated one ever, but I'm super happy that the Lakers were able to pull it out, and even Obama was able to, congratulate them, specifically LeBron, for showing his greatness. And everyone expected them to win, but it's one thing for everyone to expect you to win, and then you still have to go out and do it. And I'm happy that they did it in Kobe's honor. I'm wearing Kobe's jersey tonight. Arun, any final thoughts before I let you go?
Just thanks for having me on. It was fun being with you guys all season. Just want to shout out the Washington football team. Like, I guess it was funny because Kevin O'Connell, he was the OC of the Washington football team last season, and now he's the coordinator for the Rams. I guess Washington's gonna regret letting Matt LaFleur go, who's also the QB whisperer of RG3. Gonna miss RG3.
Right.
Thanks for having me on.
Sounds good. Thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate it. And we'll have you guys on soon when the NBA returns. So, all right, we're going to keep DC's People's Champ on, and then we're going to also bring in Dujanay. I wanted to have him give his quick just segue as well, if he wanted to just give a shout out, because I know that he's also, there he is. There we go. I like it. There we go, Lakers. So, Dujanay, any quick thoughts on that before? Oh, you're muted, I think. There you go.
Professional, but I the jersey today, so.
There you go. There you go. What number is it on there?
8.
8. There you go. We got 8 and 24. So there you go. Any thoughts on the championship or the NBA's use of the bubble and anything like that?
It was pretty phenomenal what they did. They really set the tone for everybody else to feed off of and kind of lay the groundwork on how things could get back to playing. I thought the way the guys came in, being that you have to see your opponents a lot, I thought that was pretty awesome how they kept it competitive. And, I don't think you could ask for anything more. I know a lot of people are talking about asterisks, but I mean, you have to do what you have to do. And it's going to be a season that goes down in history, but it was one of the most competitive we've seen in, recent years. So, from top to bottom on both sides, I thought it was pretty cool. And of course, I'm always excited when my Lakers win. It's the only thing I get to I really have a passion to root for. So, yeah, I'm happy that LA has the trophy and it's back where it belongs. So we're going for 18 next year. And
there you go. Yes. Congratulations to you and all of Laker Nation. I mean, some people think that just because I was a Kobe fan, I'm a bit of a bandwagon fan. I get that because I am a Wizards fan first and foremost. I will admit to that. But it made me happy, and especially I have a lot of friends out in LA, and I know that they were, super happy too. And I also appreciate that they're going to delay the championship celebration until safer times. At least that's what Bus said. But we'll see if other Lakers fans follow that, or if they do makeshift celebrations. I know a lot of fireworks are going off in LA yesterday for sure. But after watching Tampa Bay's celebrations, I think you want to try to avoid that if you can.
Exactly.
So, that sounds smart. All right, well, I'll let Carol switch gears a little bit, and we can talk about the Washington football team and sort of the crazy up and down day yesterday was.
Boy, it was an interesting day for the Washington football team. Me and Dujane had some, interesting conversation before the game. And I touched on it on the pregame and postgame, so I'm not really going to go into it now. If you want to check out what was said, go back and check out it. It's on my page, on my YouTube channel. But unfortunately, we saw another ugly 30-10 loss to the Rams. Drops the team to 1-4. You got to talk about the elephant in the room. I got you on here, Dujane. I know DC's people champ. I know he ready to blow a gasket. I'm trying to stay out of Facebook jail, so I've been trying to keep it chill. I've been staying out the fan groups, but yeah, I spoke on it yesterday. Some of the things being said by some of the fan base and the disbelief in Ron Rivera, talking about he needs to be fired and all this other stuff. I said it yesterday. Until he pulls a Jay Gruden and lies and gets caught in the lie, I'm going to take his word for what he said on his press conference. We've seen in his past, he's, reprimand players, superstars or whatever, bench them when they weren't playing up to their potential. So I don't really see a big deal with it right now. But for some reason, the fans are making it like it's a permanent benching, like he's done with him. He doesn't think that he's ever going to be a quality quarterback. And the book is closed on him. And I don't know where they're getting this idea from. Obviously, they didn't listen to his press conference because he covered it very well. Broke it down several times and had a lot more patience than I would have had because they kept asking him the same questions. But it's just funny how these fans are. I'm going to let you guys go and get your opinion before I throw some more stuff out there. Like I said, I got a lot off my chest yesterday. Dujane, I'll start with you.
I don't pay too much attention to the fan talk. I see a little bit of it. I understand what was said, and I understand where you're coming from with it. I do have a problem with. I don't have a problem with what Ron Rivera did. So let's make that clear. They not doing some things well. His mechanics, his footwork suffered at times when he felt pressured, and he didn't make the best decisions. Seemed to panic a little bit, and so I get that. Okay, so, but you come out in the beginning of the season, you talk about this being a rebuild, you're going to stick with this guy, et cetera, et cetera. Don't come at me in a press conference and talk about how he's not far along. Duh, he played 11 games up to the point he was benched. He's had 3 coaches, 2 offensive coordinators. I don't care whether you want to recognize the coronavirus or not, but it is an issue because he hadn't had no kind of offseason or OTAs to get anything ready to have a normal come into this season. So basically, with no preseason games, some of these games start out as preseason games. A coordinator and a quarterback are trying to learn each other. Now, he's a first-round draft pick. So you're either going to see what you have in him, and you're only going to do that by allowing him to play because let's get real here. It's not all about the quarterback here, okay? We saw that yesterday. So I don't know what else more we need to see through 2 quarterbacks. It's the same old crap. So, it is what it is. But the bottom line is he has a right to do it because this isn't his guy. He didn't draft him. I know you said he could come back and there's a chance that he could play. I don't know how well that looks, and I don't know if he can. And we've talked about it, Carol. I think you put somebody at a third string quarterback that's a first round draft pick. You don't even make him the backup to a guy who you feel can run the offense better. And I buy that because he's been in the system for 2 years. Didn't look like it yesterday, but it all wasn't on him either. Okay. It's still the same old crap. So
the same points you just made was the same logic that Ron Rivera was using, that he hadn't had enough time to, get acclimated, but he was making the same mistakes,
right?
The same receivers, and he wanted to see what the team could do with the quarterback that knew the offense better, that would maybe miss those open opportunities.
But listen to what I'm telling you, though. Listen to what I'm saying here, though. It's one thing to say a guy isn't ready, and you at the beginning of the season you anointed this guy when you didn't have to make him your starter. You could have started him as your backup quarterback. So now you're saying that he's not even capable enough to be your backup. But he's not capable enough to be your backup. He's your third string quarterback. You moved a guy who had a catastrophic injury, what we thought he would never come back from, to the second string. There's only really one reason for that. And once you go there, you know how this is. And we can have this conversation. We know how this is. If you put a black quarterback at number 3, it's pretty much closed curtains for that, right? And to me, it smells more of a trade than anything. I don't think it's no ill will. There's no hate towards this guy. It's not Ron Rivera's guy. And I get that. And then I also understand, okay, you can call it for whatever you want. I know that they're looking at the division and like, oh man, it's kind of right for the picking because everybody else is floundering around. Look, this team has no offense and has no answer to stop anybody because the inconsistencies in the secondary and really the whole defense. So what do you plan on winning looking at that schedule? And then you had the Rams of all teams this week. Like, you really thought you were going to win that game with Kyle Allen? I don't think so. Not from what I've seen for the past 4 weeks or whatever. Same things over and over again. So I get what he's saying, and you want to see if the offense can run a little smoother with a guy who, he's been in the system for 2 years. He should be able to do that. But it's not just about the quarterback. That's the bottom line. And it's been the bottom line the whole entire time. So moving this guy and benching a guy in Haskins, who basically, to me, didn't look much different yesterday than what Haskins did, and neither one of them two. So what are we talking about here? That's my whole thing. So if you don't want to have this guy as your quarterback and you want Kyle Allen to be it because you have more confidence in him, then say that. But don't come out here and spew us the old obvious, Captain Obvious. We all know that. We can see. I have 2 eyes. I can see that. We know that. We know what the circumstances are, and so did he. So, don't give me that rhetoric about that because I know that. Just say that the offense runs better with this guy, which I know he said that, but don't make this about the quarterback.
Well, that's kind of what he said. He said in the press conference, this is not about Dwayne Haskins. This is about an indictment on him. He hasn't had a fair shake. He hasn't had a chance. Everything that you ran down, he ran on the same thing. And that's why I say I'm giving him the benefit of that. If this was Jay Gruden, then yeah, I would feel exactly the same way you feel. But being the fact of who Rivera is and the way he's been up front and the stand-up guy everywhere else he's been, that he doesn't have one player, ex-player, ex-coach to have anything negative to say about him being a stand-up dude. Putting him at number 3, he said, was because he wanted him to take a step back and see how the offense is ran with folks that are more experienced. And Kyle Allen addressed that in his press conference when he had his 1-7 in his last 8 games. He's like, it helps you take a step back and see it from a different perspective to see how the offense should be ran. So that's all they're trying to do is give him a different perspective. He didn't say at one time as an indictment on, Dwayne, the book being closed on him. And I just feel like we can't make that conclusion right now.
But how does that look, though? This is a first-round draft pick. I mean,
who cares about optics? We always used to care about optics. It's about what's best for the team. The hell the optics, the hell what it looks like, the hell's what's being said. It's about making this team better.
You're missing what I'm saying here. What I'm talking about is for the young man himself. If you were going to do this, it would have been best for him to be the third-string quarterback. We already knew what we're going into here. You know what I mean? This has already been a thing. I'm I'm not mad at Ron for this. I'm just saying, don't come 4 weeks into the season and tell us something we already know. You're the guy who said that he was going to start. Now you're going to come out and say what you're going to say to put him all the way at 3. This guy was supposed to be your starter. And you said, we're rebuilding. We're going to see what we have in Dwayne. You know, some of this is on you as coaching to bring this guy up to speed too. Now, we haven't even touched on Dwayne because I have crap that I have to say about that too. And I know we'll get there. But don't misconstrue what I'm saying here. I'm not mad at Ron Rivera. The problem is that if you're going to do this, you should have did this from the start. It's obvious that Kyle Allen would have been the obvious choice here. But you came out at the beginning of the season and said that this is a rebuilding season. You want to see what you have in this guy. Well, the only way you know when this is a first-round draft pick on this team is by allowing him to play. And after yesterday, there's no reason why that he can't play because those two guys couldn't do anything different. And it's not an indictment on them. It's what's around them. It's not consistent enough and it's not good enough. The play by individuals on that team is not good enough. And I know we'll get into that, but I'm not saying that Ron is a bad guy. I'm not saying that at all. I like Ron. I don't like the way this was gone about because you put a guy from 1 to 3 is a bad look for a guy who's a first round pick and immature on top of that. But look, we'll get there. But you know what I'm saying. It's just not a good look to put a guy like in the middle of a season when you're supposed to be rebuilding, and this is the guy that's supposed to be shooing this thing along. And you're supposed to see what you have in him. So I don't know. That's just my thinking there. I would have done it from the beginning. There's no reason to do it right now because you're not beating anybody. I don't see them beating anybody in this division right now. They can't do anything.
Yeah, true. I mean, one thing can spark something else. I mean, in the beginning of the game, in DC's People Channel, I come to you, we ain't forget about you, bro. It was just a great exchange. My bad, bro. But
Dujanay was getting his shit off. I ain't bad.
Yeah, but I think we saw a little bit of difference with the play calling in the beginning when we saw them get the touchdown and take the lead, temporarily in the second quarter. We saw them rolling the pocket more. We saw a little bit more trying to run the ball. They brought in McClissick. They had Gibson run the ball a little bit, but they get away. I feel like Scott Turner, it has a little bit of Jay Gruden syndrome. And with the Rams and their potent, diverse offense, it was like the perfect storm for this team, for them not to be able to get no consistency offensively and then wear on the defense because they have a 50% conversion rate on third down. And we saw why they do. They have a diverse offense with weapons all over the place, and McVay calls a great game. So it was just a combination of those things. And like you say, a team that's not that good, that's rebuilding, and it just showed on the field. The Rams are a better team. Like Robbie will point out, we all took this as a loss, on our predictions for the season. So, I mean, it's no big surprise that they lost this game. It's just the fact that with the stuff with Haskins going on and everything. But like I say, I always respect your opinion. I just have a, different point of view. And I'm like I said, I respect it. Yeah, I already know, bro. It's not even a question. But I'm just, I guess I'm more of the wait and see how things pan out, and I'm gonna take his word and he gives me a reason not to. DC's People Champ, you've been over there, smoking on that nice cigar, checking this out. What's your thoughts on this? And I try to keep it as PG-13 as you can. I know you got some stuff to get off of your chest.
Well, not really. See, I've been a fan of this team since the early 80s when I was a tyke. So, I'm bringing the fans' perspective here, but I'm bringing the sensible fans' perspective here. One of the things that people seem to are forgetting here is that this is a very, very young team. Okay. And Carol, you made the point about this in your very passionate post-game speech yesterday, that people have got to be patient. As a wrestler in Japan usually says, you have to be tranquilo. You got to relax. Okay. This is a new coach. This is a new coaching staff. This is a new system, both sides of the ball. It's not going to be exactly perfect right off the bat, especially with no all season, and yeah, all the other teams in the league had no all season. So what? None of them have the same overhaul that we have.
Thank you.
So fans have got to understand it. And that's one thing I've understand. That's why I'm not as frustrated or as angry at this loss, especially because of the fact it's the Rams. The Rams are a very good team on both sides of the ball. Their defense is absolutely amazing. And when you have your offense back, your offensive line that's still putting these things together, backpedaling to block on pass blocking, of course you're going to have 8 sacks like you're going to have. If you're not running the football and letting that offensive line go at this very aggressive defensive line, they're going to lose every time. I mean, so this fan base has got to understand that, but a lot of them don't because they don't understand football. I always identify myself as I'm a Washington football fan first, and I'm a football fan second. I understand football. I've been watching it for 30 plus years. So I understand what's going on. I understand the nuances of the game and everything like that. I understand that when you have a team that's very young, they're not going to immediately gel like this when they haven't had the chance to gel before the season started, before the games count. So people have got to understand. I ambitiously, my fandom did come in when we did our predictions before the season and gave them 8-8. I may have been a little bit overzealous in that. I'll be honest, but
I gave him 9 wins. How you think I feel?
That's true. That is true. But I feel like you give them a couple more games, let them get the system under control. Let them get on the defensive side, get themselves situated. I think they're going to start wheeling off some wins. They're going to start surprising people because they have the talent. A lot. They may not be named talent, but they have the talent to be able to do it. They just got to be able to put it together, and fans have got to understand and be like, you know what? Let's see what happens. Riverboat Ron took the Carolina Panthers to the playoffs, to the Super Bowl, and he had vast talent. And he's somebody who is not going to sit there and sugarcoat anything. Nope. So believe in this coach, believe in this staff, believe in this team. They are going to turn it around, but you have to be patient. Tranquilo.
I keep on telling people that they need to give it at least 2 years. Rebuild. We had this great interview with Walter Roberts last week that I hope people go back and listen to. And he talked about championship pedigree and how you have to build it over years. It's not something, there's been stuff in our office that's a mistake. There's been stuff in the coaching staff. There's been players. It's across the board that they need to be like making these adjustments. And, you have to have expectations. I had them exactly where they are, 1-4 through 5 games, but I still had them having 6 wins because I thought that it would take them some time to get going. I have them winning 4 out of the next 5 though, right? So this is where that next step needs to happen. Can they beat the Giants and Cowboys? They play them twice each. So I see Dejanay doesn't think that they can, but it will be a more interesting test for me than the Rams, which I never thought we were going to be, right? So I don't think that the test should have ever been the Rams. It should have been, these upcoming games. And I understand why they wanted to get our quarterbacks into the flow of things before they get into those games, if that's what you really want to see, because you don't want to throw an Allen, into a division rivalry game where it's on the line that was his first time seeing in-game reps. So I think I understand the thought process that they gave him 4 games. They didn't see the progression they wanted to, but I understand it from both sides.
That's an interesting point you just made, and I'll buy that there. But when now when you want to come in a press conference and you want to something like that, then you should come out and say it that way. You know what I mean? That's where I have a problem, man. From the reporter side of it, and when you're looking at how you're dealing with players, you're dealing with a young man who is trying to develop. He's trying to develop and find his way as a man. He's young. He does some immature things out there. Too much blabbermouthing on Twitter and Instagram. The keying and whooping it up with Baltimore after the game when you got a foot hung in your behind. Those things you have to learn. Did he have a stomach virus yesterday? I don't know. We never know.
We're going to take the high road on that one, dude. We're going to take the high road.
I'm going to take the high road. I'm just going to say, I don't know. But I do like what Robbie said there, and I will buy that. If you're going to say, okay, I gave him a first quarter window. This is our second quarter. We wanted to see what Kyle Allen can do in the second quarter. If we can win a couple games in the second quarter, then maybe I'll stick with Kyle for a little while longer and see if we can get some more wins because, see, our division is garbage.
he pretty much said
That's
that.
what he did say.
That's pretty much what he said in the press conference.
No, he didn't say it the way Robbie said it.
Nah, that's exactly the way because we both watched the press conference because he put it on our page. I watched the whole 45 minutes with him,
Did
Scott,
too.
and Cal Allen. He broke it down just like you just broke it down.
Okay, well, maybe I missed that, but again, that and really, if that's what you're going to do, I'm okay with that. And I hope those guys understand that. Now, if he's acting childish, then maybe somebody wasn't aware of that, or maybe it's just what I said earlier. There's some immature things that have happened here, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Let me piggyback off of that because we actually got a question from the Facebook Live from Chris Howe. He said, is there any truth to the stories about Haskins not working hard? And I heard the total opposite when he first got drafted, that he was supposed to be, a film rat, that he was always studying film. And I've heard a couple of rumblings about that, but I haven't heard it loud enough to, give it credence. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't heard anything about it. I think the biggest problem here is first of all, Carol, from coaching, if you got a quarterback who's supposed to be or player on your defense that's supposed to be the face of your defense, he's the leader, and he's running around here on Facebook talking about all the work that he's doing, showing all this, talking about keeping quiet, then keep quiet, but you're not quiet. You're all over this Facebook. Players see that, and then you go out on Sunday and you take a big fat dump on the field every week. But yet you still talking about keep looking, be quiet. What you gonna do, Carol, as a coach to that player? And what are the players gonna do and think about that player running his yap every week and not doing a darn thing?
Very bad. See, I follow him on social media, but I don't really pay a lot of close attention to his page, so I didn't know all of that stuff was going on. And it's kind of funny because I believe that's one of the conversations that me and you had when they drafted him. And I said, for him coming home, is he going to be able to, handle the pressure of the social media of the local DC fans? And once things got bad, would he be able to handle it properly? Because we didn't know about his maturity and if he will be able to. I guess, obviously, we seeing that he doesn't know how to handle it because I didn't even know about all that.
Where is he from?
Yeah.
Potomac, Maryland.
Okay.
Right.
I need to go. That's it.
Yeah. So he's right down the street from where I am right now. So here's something that I thought was really interesting. The coach in today's press conference, which I thought was also really interesting, was saying that he basically did not practice well after he got the news, right? He kind of, did this and the body language wasn't there and he was putting together the bare minimum of what he had to do not to get into trouble. But he said that on Friday, he put a really good day together. He went to all the meetings. He was very attentive. He took all the reps and that he was starting to come around some of that maturity thing. And that's why it's so strange that maybe the stomach virus was a thing, because just based on what he said with that one line that he thought that Friday was a good practice, he didn't have to throw that tidbit out there, right? But I think he was trying to diffuse some of the background chatter that we're talking about right now about was he really sick or not. And I think in saying he had a good day Friday, to me, it did that, right? And I don't know if he's just trying to do him a favor or if that actually was what really happened. But I thought that was an interesting statement.
Yeah, I hope that's the case because, first day him doing that, I understand it, man. You're the starter, and these guys have a competitive nature. They don't want to be put on the bench and to sit back, and they feel like especially when they feel like they can learn more on the job and be hands-on, and they don't feel like that they're the cause of the problem. All competitors think that way. I still think that way, and I can't get nothing done. I'm old. So, we all think that way. So I don't blame him for having, being upset and really being checked out on that.
And coach said that. He said that if he wasn't upset and checked out for those next 2 days, he would have thought something was wrong with the competitive nature in him, right? So
exactly. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's that's one of the things that Rivera said in the press conference. Like, man, someone asked about the psyche. Do you think this is going to affect your young quarterback in a bad way? And he said this is one or two things is going to happen. He's going to learn and grow from it, or he's not. And this is going to determine if he's going to be a quarterback in the NFL, because he's going to have to deal with the adversity if it's a interception, if it's a fumble, if it's a sack in a bad situation, and learn how to shake it off and go back out there and work harder. So this is a learning moment for him more than anything, and hopefully he rises to the occasion. Hopefully those things he said is true, that he started taking it more serious and looking more attentive and with all the meetings and did what he's supposed to do. Unfortunately, it took him to this point to do that, but maybe the light switch has been flipped on, and like he said, if he's getting back in the game and see what happens, he started to improve, because we saw improvement at the end of last season
Right.
with play. So we've seen it from him, and I think that's why Rivera made the move, because he has potential, and obviously he's not using his full potential to get to where he needs to be. So take that step back and take that seat and reevaluate things and move forward.
I think he still needs to mature though a little bit. I mean, we're talking about it. I know that maybe unfollowing things or whatever shouldn't be like news stories or whatever, but we got to know the market that you're in, right? People are going to see that and run with it, right? And he's from here, so he knows that this is the market, right? And he knew that one unfollow button was going to create a story. Right? There's no way that I believe that he didn't think that through.
I would rather he unfollow than he say something stupid.
That might be true, but I just think the optics. He's just got to know he's supposed to be a captain and a leader, and he's just got to put a smiling face, even if he gets dealt a bad set of cards, to understand, hey, I'm still starting quarterback here. If not for this position, that the next people are going to be looking at me too, right? So like everything's on film. The whole story is putting out there, and you've got to play it right all the way through. And I'm not saying it's easy. He's very young, didn't have many years. DC People's Champ, what are your thoughts on that?
I think the one thing he has to understand is, with this fan base, they're so jaded when it comes to quarterbacks, and the amount of quarterbacks we've had in the 20 plus years that Dan Snyder has been the owner of this team. This is where their frustration, their anger, their whining, their crying, their bitching is coming from, is the fact that when are we going to have our franchise quarterback? When are we going to have our Dak Prescott? When are we going to have our Patrick Mahomes? When are we going to have our Aaron Rodgers, our Matt Ryan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And that's what's going on here. And that's why most people need to just sit back and just let the process happen. Because if this guy right here, if Dwayne Haskins is the franchise quarterback, let it happen naturally. Let it happen organically. Don't force it. Because that's what happened with RG3. He came out, he had a great rookie year in 2012. Everybody's like, oh, he's a franchise. This is it. We're going to the Super Bowl. Then he had a off year, and all of a sudden they wanted him out. So this fan base is just to a point where they want to have that franchise quarterback for 10 years plus, like other teams have, but they got to let the process happen. They got to let it happen naturally. Aaron Rodgers didn't become the franchise quarterback for the Green Bay Packers forced. It happened naturally. So that's what needs to happen. That's the stance I'm taking as a fan. I'm like, if this is the guy, I want to sit back and let it happen. I'm not going to force feed it. I'm not going to force it. Let it happen.
Yeah,
let it happen.
Martin and Christian ain't getting it done to have a franchise quarterback. That's one thing I've always noticed, and being from the area and having family that are fans. Washington has always been about blaming the quarterback every time, but they seem to miss everything else that's going on out there, and it's always on the quarterback's shoulders to monitor. But I'm gonna tell you right now, man, there's a lot of guys that are learning on this job. A lot of young guys. It's a young team. And like DC People Champ said, it's about patience right now. This is what rebuilding looks like. And you're at the beginning stages of it. This is an extremely young team. Everybody's learning on the fly, and they're learning something new on top of that, which they never had a long enough time to really gather and put together and put out on the field. 2 weeks is not enough to be season ready. For this young team, as much turnover as they've had. And they're trying to figure out guys who fit in spots too. And right now, when you look just offensively, offensive line is not getting it done. The only guy I see out there that's really getting it done consistently is Morgan Moses. Everybody else don't look like they're improving. The left side of that line, that's a big question mark, my friend. I don't care who you got at quarterback. You can go find the top best quarterback you can find out here. You can get Russell Wilson if you want. And you're not going to get anything different, my man. It's just no time.
Here's the problem. And this is my last thought on this. And I see this all over social media. the way the league is set up, black quarterbacks can only be one of two things. They can either be elite or bad. They can't even be mediocre. They can't be mediocre because then they're considered bad. There's no gray area when it comes to black quarterbacks. They either have to be super elite and perfect, or they're just bad. Point blank, period. And it's a sad state of affairs that we're in.
They ain't that conversation.
No, they're not. They're not ready for that.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Well, I mean, money and all that, because I think that's important. I mean, we're not gonna have it today, but like, I feel so bad for Dak Prescott. I know that he's a Cowboy, and he shouldn't have been forced to take the money, because if he was a white quarterback, they would have just handed it over and not had a question about it, right? So I was listening to Hurt talk about it on his show, on his pregame, and he was spot on. And it's very, very frustrating because Dak should have got paid, and he took a gamble on himself, and he may have lost, right? And that would be very disappointing. I'm hoping that people know how good he is, and they'll still give him the money that he deserves. But we'll never know if his ankle, and part of his thing is his mobility. We never know if it's going to be the same as what it was. And
prayers to Dak, man. Prayers to Dak. That was horrible.
Yeah. You're never going to get the same money now after that injury. I actually got a glimpse of it. Everybody on social media had to put it up there. And, it was bad. But I know Dujane got to get out of here because he's covering the Saints, and currently they're down 6-0 to L.A. Chargers, still in the first quarter. But to wrap this up, I said we want to speak about the Alex Smith situation. Dujane, let me get your take on seeing this young man, this determined, willful, not letting anything, even possibly losing his leg and almost dying from an infection, to stop him from playing a game that he truly loved. Because like I said, I had to eat my words when I said I thought he would never play another down again, and I had no problem saying I was wrong with a dude that did what he has done is amazing. And when Aaron Donald jumped on his back for that first sack, I closed my eyes. I'm not even going to fake, but I didn't know what was going to happen, and I felt more scared for him than he probably did out there on the field.
You're right. And I texted you earlier. I texted you during when I saw that. I had been talking about the fact that could easily be a possibility. And the more and more I saw Kyle running around taking big shots, like it was a matter of time. When he actually walked out on the field and it was going out there, it was kind of surreal. My stomach dropped, to be honest with you. I was very scared for him, and still scared for him. But like you said, when Aaron Donald jumped on his back, I just ran away from the TV because something bad was going to happen. And then when I went back and the replay was still there, and I'm like, I can't believe that this dude was taking steps. He had Aaron Donald on his back, and he's okay. And I'm like, all right, he may be okay doing this thing, but it's pretty incredible what that man went through, almost losing his leg. I didn't want him to go back out there, but that's just me. His will and determination, and that's something he wanted to accomplish. More power and big ups to him for being able to setting a goal, reaching that goal, and then seeing it through. And not only seeing it through, but it's one thing to get out there and keep the jersey clean, but he got hit a lot in that game. So there were some hits that were reminiscent of the hit that he took that caused the injury. He seemed to not be phased at all. He just popped back up and went to the sideline like it never happened. And that's remarkable. It's a big example for kids and adults today. All I can do is smile, man. I thought that was probably the best thing that's probably going to happen all this year. It's remarkable. And his family was there to be able to see that too. I know his wife was cringing at times as well.
Yeah, I know she needed some hand answered after that game. Her stomach was probably bubbling all different types of ways watching that. She's like all the stuff that she was probably having flashbacks of all the stuff that he had been through the last 2 years. She probably was, but she looked like she was excited when he got in, but then she sat back and I was like, oh boy.
I know.
Rest of this game.
Yeah, really quickly, I just want to read this one tweet from Barack Obama. Congratulations to my friend Alex Smith for fighting back from a life-threatening injury to start at quarterback again for the Washington football team. It is a testament to his strength, determination, and the love and support of his family. I thought that was a very well thought out tweet. Very, very impressive. I still have goosebumps thinking about it. I came on the post-game show with Carol last night, and I only come on after wins, but it was such a pivotal moment and such an amazing thing to see. I had to speak on it even yesterday. It was just I think between that story, and obviously what Rivera is doing, with, the fighting of the cancer, I just think we could never win another game the whole season, and I would still be very impressed with the culture shift that's happening right before our eyes with the Washington football team. And I think that people should be looking at those moments and not trying to fire our coach or try to, mismanage or, say, hey, you said it was our quarterback and it turned out to be the quarterback in the first game. You should be gone because clearly you don't know what you're doing. Like, it's just, why is that the rhetoric of our fan base when we have got these amazing stories right in front of us that the national media is spotlighting, but the local media and the local fan base struggles with? And that, I think, was a frustrating thing sort of the Monday morning for me. So, yeah.
I'll say this too. I think even us, and I'll be honest, a lot of us as reporters now don't, a lot of these reporters don't know what they say they know. I think you can look to the hiring of Jason as an example. That story broke, and it broke from them. And that's how they've been doing it. So I'm going to also go with the thing of, I don't believe everything that coach is telling me, because I believe that they have a plan, and they're not out here telling everybody exactly what they're doing and what's going on, because at the end of the day, it's none of our business. And when they want to break it and tell it, they will break it and tell it through their media system, and they will distribute it out to us, so that there's no read between the lines or any innuendo or anything like that. That it'll be straightforward and a word that we can trust. So there's a lot of frustration for various reasons. Fans have been watching this for a long time, but I think that you're seeing a true rebuild here. Even though I don't like the fact that they're not using their starter and finding out what they have in him. At the end of the day, I'm not going to argue with it. This is what he wants to do. He has a plan, clearly. And you can see that why they're putting different guys in, something that Jay didn't do when he was there, especially safety position, to see if they have, guys there that can play. And they're seeing that they don't have it right now. Neither do they have it in the money pit that they have over there in Landry. I love him, but he's not getting the job done right now. So there's a lot of things they're trying to figure out. So before we come down on the coaches for what's going on the field, I think there's a lot of learning going on, and there's a lot of searching as well of who are guys that in the long run, when we have a full off season, hopefully in 2021, or even if we don't, we have to make a plan now to see who we have and who is keepable, and then who are guys that now we are going to bring in, whether it's through free agency, through the draft, to solidify the talent we see here and that we feel that we can use for what we're trying to do here with the new Washington football team.
Real quickly, I wanted to piggyback off of one thing that you said, and that's about the media outlet of the football team, right? So we had Julie Donaldson on a couple of weeks ago. I thought she was very transparent with us, which I really appreciate. I hope people go back and listen to that, because she sort of, set together what her game plan is. And obviously they're still learning on the fly. It's a whole new department that she's trying to restructure. But at the same time, they really want to try to communicate and bring the fan experience in and try to be as transparent as it is. So all this reading between the lines and saying that people are drafted or he's not practicing or he's celebrating in the locker room. I mean, there's just so much media spin and bullshit that's going around. And I have to admit, I sometimes get caught up in it too, right? So, I mean, it's a natural thing to do. And we have to sort of pump our brakes and try to not do that and try to let it really unfold the way that, that it needs to unfold.
Because they're the same ones who've been spitting the same crap all this time eventually. And I've been saying this for years now. It's slowly but surely getting to the point where they're not going to have a leg to stand on because they don't have the little weasels that they can go and find stuff from, so they can continue to run with the narrative about how trash dump. Because it really feels like that the media there is really they're the ones who want to get Dan Snyder fired as much as, they've kind of gassed the fans up to a certain degree to be at this level, but they're also a part of it too. And you know who I'm talking about. You know who they are.
Okay. Hey, dude. you going in tonight, brother. You going in. Yeah, I'm trying to stay out of jail. I'm trying to stay out of jail, and you about to put me back in.
I'm tired of playing with people, man.
Bro, I feel you.
That's why we started this 5 years ago, so we have an opportunity to have real discussions instead of all the bullshit,
Yeah, but I got a question off of my feed addressing about the name issue. They still, I guess this might be their first time tuning in. We've addressed this before, and we'll let you get out of here, dude. So you can get to the game and get to your analyst stuff, so you can make. I know you're gonna write that great article after the fact. But the thing with the Washington football team name, it's in litigation right now. That's why they have the Washington football team now for the name that they're going to choose, because we had a genius in this area trademark any variation of anything with red wolves, red anything. And it's a couple of names that they're working with that have already been trademarked that they have to go through the legal process to be able to get trademarking and branding and all of that good stuff. So the Washington football team will be the name of the team for at least a year, maybe a little bit longer, with all the legal stuff and litigation has to go down with it. So it is what it is, and we don't have.
I want to add one just quick point to that, because she actually answered that question too for us, Julie Donaldson, and she's going to be a part of that, and she really wants the fans to help be a part of the decision-making process. So it's not like behind the scenes they have a name, they just don't have it yet. I think that they're going to try to come up with the best names, and then they're going to have a conversation with people and really try to bring everybody in and try to, because she doesn't want this to be this horrible dividing thing. She knows that the fan base is divided already on so many issues that she doesn't want this to be another one. So that's why they're taking a step back. They're going to analyze it from all points of view. They're going to try to get fans' input. They're going to try to figure out them. They're going to try to bring the culture and the history of the team with it. I think that will be what it will be going forward. So,
indeed.
But all right, we can go ready to let Dujanay. I know you say you're going to try to stay off for a little while. You already stayed through almost the whole. We had a great. It's always a great show when we got some controversy to talk about. Everything when they winning and playing well, which is very rare when we've done this show. But when they win and play well, we really don't have much to talk about. So it had to be a little controversy to have one of the best episodes of Washington Football Talk of season 5. So Dujanay, I appreciate that as always, man. Let the folks know where they can find you at.
No problem, brother. You can find me at NotBland21 on everything. We'll have some stuff coming out here soon. SportsJourney.com for all the written work, and you can even listen to the podcast on the website as well. You can also listen to the podcast, which is back here in the background, right here on the SportsOTHP page as well, which I appreciate them putting up the links to that and the articles as well. And guys, just be patient, man. Everything's going to be all right. And it is a new day, but we just have to be patient for the big prize at the end of this long tunnel. You're starting to see light, though. So I know it doesn't seem that way now, but it's getting there. It's getting there. And yep, we the champs.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dujanay.
Man. Appreciate it as always, man. Let's get about it here. DC's People Champ, let them know where they can find you at and what you got going on.
This coming weekend, Sunday, we're going to break down the entire WWE draft. Right now, Raw is going on. I'm actually watching it on a tape delay, and it's crazy right now, but the draft's going on there. It's the final week of the G1 Climax tournament in Japan. By Sunday, we're going to find out who's going to have a title shot at Wrestle Kingdom in January. So make sure you tune in. No Spots Podcast on Sunday, G1 Climax Recall on Monday. Thank you guys for having me, and y'all have a good night. Hi, Anna.
Hi.
you guys were on the screen at the same time. It happened, right?
I had to do it. I had to do it this time. Absolutely.
I know. We've been talking about it for the last couple of ones. So
definitely.
Thank you, DC People's Champ. We'll have you on soon to talk more sports.
Peace.
DC People Champ, holla at you, bro.
All right.
And
sounds good.
What's going on? We got you back a week after we thought we was going to see you for a while. And
you're just missing me, right? Come on now.
couldn't let the season end that early. That
Right. Well, I think
short as is.
Right.
right. Well, that season's kind of over. Now we get to talk about the next season. I guess that kind of came up a little bit faster than I was like, man, we have draft, we have free agency, and
Yeah.
I couldn't let it go months without talking to you about those things. So,
No, apparently not. It's like, Gil decided to pull the crazy, let's do a show on the draft. I was like, oh, what? Okay. So I dusted off those cobwebs last night, and I was like, all right, I'm good to go. So
sounds good. All right. So I'll go through the draft board real quickly with people, and then I'll have your take on the free agency, and throughout we can get Carol's thoughts if he has any. I don't think, Carol, you don't follow minor league hockey that much, right? So you probably don't have a lot of prospect.
People listening and sharing because I know the draft. I don't know nothing about college hockey and the free agents. I only know them once they come to the team, baby. So I'll go ahead and take this away. I'm gonna just go ahead and share it to some of the Caps group.
I appreciate that. That sounds good. All right, so let's just go through the draft as it was. So they had a couple of picks. They even traded for some picks. I'll give a quick little shout out to Washington Capitals social media. They had a great little video today earlier that shows what it was like to be behind the scenes for rounds 2 through 7. I highly recommend people go check out. It's like they probably took a couple of days worth of footage and chopped it down like 4 minutes. And so you just get a little taste of it, which I thought was really interesting.
It was. I am so glad that you shared it because it was truly fantastic to see kind of what it is like to be behind the scenes and what goes into it, and what you like, how they have their phones ready and they're they're ready to go. So
they gotta have a lot of phones ready because they're calling all these different teams and
so thank you for sharing that. I'm glad that I was tagged in that. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Hendrix Lapierre was our first round pick. We got that pick from Calgary. He's a center. He's kind of in the Backstrom mold. He recorded nearly a point per game in limited action during the 2019-20 season and in the minor leagues. And he won Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2018-19 in those lower leagues. He helped Team Canada win silver at the 2019 Gretzky Cup, where he led all skaters with 3 goals and 8 assists in 5 games played. So he trains alongside people like Chris Letang, which I thought was interesting. And his scouting report, which was kind of cool. He's a great skater with powerful strides, excellent puck skills, has high hockey IQ, able to execute plays at a high speed, creates time and space with his puck skills, and has the creativity to make plays. Strong two-way game, a complete player who brings strong work ethic. So it reminded me a lot of a Nicholas Backstrom, and they said the current player comparable that they had was Jonathan Toews. So, I mean, if you're compared to those two players, I'm excited to see. And then my favorite thing is on social media, he quickly had to log into his accounts because Ovi was tweeting at him or Instagram posting at him or whatever. And he had to quickly get into his accounts to respond to him and he showed some pictures, which I loved.
I love
when
it.
he was a kid. So it kind of reminds me of a little bit of what we saw in Toronto a couple of years ago with the Toronto bedspread, right? So, so he had a fat head of Alexander Ovechkin behind him.
Yep.
He's wearing an Alexander Ovechkin jersey. He says it was his first NHL jersey. And he says he was a diehard fan growing up of Alexander Ovechkin. So that makes me very happy. I mean, those are all the things I want to hear. Nicholas Backstrom 2.0, Ovi fan. I don't know how quickly he can get into, an NHL lineup or, if he's got to sort of work his way up like they do. But I was very excited about that first round pick. Do you have any thoughts on him before we move on?
He is one that I have starred. Absolutely. Gil and I did talk about it last night on Power Play, and we were saying when you have a player that has the honor of being compared to Nicholas Backstrom, that's huge. And especially in the sense that you have it in a Nicholas Backstrom who is not an aggressive player, but just that wickedly smart player, and he's calm and he's smart and he's just knows where to be on the ice. And this kid is 18 years old. 18 years old. And I know that there is a lot of negativity on the ends of his past injuries, which Gil and I kind of realized last night some of it had been falsely
Yeah,
put
for
out
those
there.
who don't know, concussion potential issues, neck issues, things like that, which is why he wasn't higher than 22, right? So, I mean, he was considered a top 10 talent, but there was this injury question, which is why he kind of dropped to us. Yeah.
Right. And it was like, oh, he has so many concussions, but it wound up actually being what they call a cervical dysfunction, which is not a concussion, but once people hear concussion, you automatically think like, oh my gosh, he's had one, he's had two, like.
And he had a surgery to repair some of that, I believe. So,
right. So I think, he's 18. I think he's going to recover. I think he's a name that we will definitely be talking about, and I am pumped for he's starred on my list here.
Sounds good. The next couple, I'm going to kind of go quickly through because we don't have as much information about it, and I kind of want to get to the free agency because I think that's a little more exciting. Because you never know if anyone beyond a third-round pick is ever going to pan out in the NHL. So the next one is, I think it's Bogdan Trianovich. Who knows? He's Russian, so I'm sure that Ovechkin would like him. He played on Dynamo Moscow, which we know that Ovechkin is a big fan of that team. So he's played in 36 games for them, had 12 goals, 14 assists for 26 points in the 2019 season. So, I mean, he's obviously played pretty well. In the previous season, he had, in 23 games, he had 1 goal and 8 assists for 9 total points. So he's definitely an interesting player. He was born in 2002, so he's young, has a lot of upside. And then there is Bear Hughes, which is an American. I'm
a fan of.
You are from Spokane. He played in 61 games last year at 16 goals, 31 assists. So that's a lot of assists. He plays center as well. What are you hearing about Bear?
I don't. There's something about when you see kids. To me, they're kids because I'm oh my God, I could be their mom.
Right.
But when you see them interviewed and you see their passion and you see their skill on the ice and just everything, there's something about Bear and LaPierre that I am just super excited for. I just think that there's something about these guys that are just going to bring something. There's just something about that vibe that you can see the competitiveness, but you can also see that they're willing to learn. And there's a big difference between, when you come in and you're some cocky, 18-year-old or however old and not willing to listen, and ones that are like, oh my God, I'm playing with the guy who's like my first NHL jersey. I'm going to listen to everything he has to say.
Yeah, for sure. So the next person is Garland Borkland, I think.
Bjorklund.
Yeah, Borkland. Okay. And he is a Canadian who played in the WHL. He had a great season, so he's a goalie. And I think that you can never have too many goalies, especially you could maybe stick them down in Hershey or whatever and develop them because you always got to kind of be developing the next level of talent. I know we've got a bunch of great goalies in our system already, but he ranked third among WHL rookie goaltenders with 20 wins in 2019-20. So he obviously, still had room to grow, but was putting up really great numbers. And so he seems like he's in the style of play. They were comparing him to Jonathan Quick, which I thought was interesting. So, I mean, that's an impressive person to throw out a name.
I was going to say that. That's a big, that's a big compliment.
So I'd like him in our system, even if he's got to start at the bottom. He's, very young. He was also born in 2002. Only 18 as well. And then they actually switched some picks around. They took a pick from next year and traded him away and got a pick for this year in Oscar Magnuson, who they've had on their board, as you can see in that video, for a while. And they were like, oh, man, he's still available. Let's make a move. And they thought that there was a couple of players that they could make moves for. And he plays left wing. So he's a Swedish player. He played in the Sweden Junior League in 38 games, had 22 goals, 26 assists for 48 points. In the previous year, had 8 goals and 11 assists. So you could see him develop extra year after year. Had 40 penalty minutes, so he obviously could mix it up a little bit, which is surprising for Swedes who seem so calm. But I think that you can never have too many good players. He's kind of a shorter guy. He's 5'10", not a big guy, but I think he's like a speed guy. Not a whole lot on him, but again, he's a lower round, low risk. Probably spends his time in Hershey, but is an important person. He was a European skater, obviously. So
and he was definitely a significant name in that video.
Right. Yeah,
So
they had their eye on him for a while.
Yeah.
So it was, he kind of fell to them. They were kind of surprised that he did. So that's a good sign. You should always, take a risk. If there's a player on the board that you can get now, who knows what next year's board looks like. I mean, it's a 7th round from next year for a 7th round this year. It's not a big drop off, and potentially if they could develop him over an additional year and then he's more ready the following year, that might end up being better for the Capitals going forward. So those are some of the draft picks and a quick rundown. I'll let Carol just give his thoughts, just based on the explanation. Obviously, don't know any additional information, but are you happy that we kind of got well-rounded centers, forward, defenseman, goalie, and some young prospects?
Yeah, you got to keep the minor leagues full. We saw that with the Nats and their run. So that with the Capitals and their run, they called up some players throughout the season. So yeah, you have to keep can't have the cupboard bare. You got to keep it fully stocked. So they've been pretty solid with their development and the way they brought players in. We always talk about how I love the John Carlsons, the Tom Wilsons, the Alex Ovechkins, the draft picks that's here contributing, getting better, and making the team better. So I say hats off to them, and we'll see if they make it to the upper level and see what they can do to help this team get back to that ultimate goal of winning another cup.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'm going to talk about the biggest free agency signing, and then I'm going to let Anna break down all the rest of them. And the biggest one was the one we predicted last week. We talked about it, and it was just really exciting that we got it right, and we got it for almost the right value. I was saying 1.5 was what I wanted. It was 1.5, so I can't quibble about a $250,000.
No.
It's pretty close. And I think people are like, oh, his numbers are bad. I actually spent some time looking up Hank's numbers because I was really kind of interested about the comparable between him and Holtby. Obviously, he's going to be in the back. He's not going to be playing as a starter potentially unless they need him to because Sam's not ready. And last year in 30 games played, he had 10 wins, 12 losses, 3 overtimes, 3.16, and a 905, which is very comparable to the 311 and an 897 that Holtby had. Now, Holtby had more games played with 48 and 25 wins and 14 losses. But, he was obviously a starter.
Right.
What I've heard from about Hank is he's great at mentoring other goalies. So if we don't know Sam's ready to start the year.
Right.
We've got Vic Vanacek behind him. We've got some of these young guys, even Copley. They could learn a lot from him. And if we need Hank to start the season, we could. And not to mention, there's so much motivation. Hearing him, he's been on our social media channels a lot. Already 3 times videos with him, which I think is great. Get him out there. And he says he wants to win now. He wants to have one of these storybook endings to end his career, and he wants to hoist the cup with the Washington Capitals to end his career. And that's what I want to hear him say. And it sounds like he'll do it by playing great in goal or by helping his teammates and whatever it takes to win. And that's exactly what you want. So anybody who's poo-pooing this move because his numbers are a little less than the Hall of Fame Henrik Lundqvist numbers that from the past doesn't understand the value, especially at $1.5 million, that he could do for the future of the team. Either he wins now and gets his dream, right, which would be great, right? Would hoist the cup that's right behind your head, right? Or he trains them and maybe we win a cup in the next couple of years afterwards, with the Sam that understands how to win, because he has the most wins, most active, second all time, most wins to never win a cup with 60 playoff wins. I mean, no one else had over 50 other than these two, right? So, I mean, he's arguably one of the best goaltenders to never win. You can't learn from a better person than that. And so for me, it's a great move. And I'm sad to see Holtby go, right? But for $4 million, we were able to pretty much get Hank and the defensive player that we'll talk about from Pittsburgh, to get it under that same cap spot. And I think if we can upgrade our defense and the goaltending doesn't go down too far,
right?
You got to make the move. But before I get into the defensive player that we're going to talk about next, I thought that's a really interesting signing. Carol, your thoughts on signing the King?
I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame goalie that's on your squad that's pretty much been the face of the Rangers franchise for what,
15 years.
15 years. Yeah, I was about to say 10 or 15 years.
I think it's 17 actually, maybe.
Oh,
He's been in almost every situation. Like hasn't won the cup. I don't see a downside in the signing. And then the money you're talking about, it makes it a plus to get him for that amount. And as you said, if Samsonov isn't ready and mental the other goalie, to me it's a win-win. I don't see any downside to this at all. And a quick scoring update on Monday Night Football if you're not checking that out. The Los Angeles Chargers are now up on the Saints 13-3. The rookie quarterback is threw a 45-yard completion to the 5-yard line and then threw a 5-yard touchdown to give them a 13-3 lead. They missed the extra point after the first touchdown. But that Los Angeles rookie quarterback is looking pretty damn good right now. I wish our quarterback could look like that.
But the Saints are a second half team, so I'm going to just say that because they're in my pool.
Hey, it's early. I still got fantasy football on the line.
Yeah, we all have the Saints pretty much. If you're looking at it, I didn't mention in the football segment, but Carroll's leading, Arun's second, and I believe that Dugenet is third right now. So it's nice to know that the people on this podcast are dominating the fantasy sphere, but all of us picked, I believe, the Saints to win this game. So this would be a surprising result for sure. But Anna, quick thoughts on the King, and then let's move on to this defensive player that we stole from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I will say that last night Gil was not 100% on board. He was kind of negative about this and saying that people were so excited because they're thinking of Hank as like how he was a couple of years ago, and that the expectation needs to be more realistic, that's not who we're going to get this year. He's older and whatever else. I don't know. I always kind of see things differently. He's like got that.
We saw this year in Dallas, right? Like an old goaltender.
That's what I said. I said, shit, you can't look at Khudobin. Like, come on. I said, so I think that the fact that there is, he has such a love of the game and love of just wanting to raise the cup, and that passion is there as strongly as Ovechkin's.
Right, I'm so excited that they get to play together, right? Like all these years that they've been these quote unquote arch nemesis, but they've always seemed to be frenemies, right? They've always been very friendly and cordial to each other.
Total respect, but and he'll even say I don't want to go up against him because the pucks are too hard or they're too fast or they're this or. But I respect that, and I think that he is going to come and like you said, even if he doesn't play, more than half the games, if he plays 35 games or 30 games, and he's more of that mentor, I'm okay with it. Because I think that Holtby would have been a fantastic mentor, and I know he was, but we have to go with what we have now. And no one is disrespecting or, taking away what Braden Holtby gave to the Capitals, and love to the beast. I mean, oh my God.
We can't pay $4.5 million for a backup, right? I mean, and he was never going to be okay with being the backup role, and I don't want that.
Yeah,
for him,
exactly.
So
So I think I'm all for it, and I think I think he's just going to bring a really good. He's going to bring a good vibe to that locker room.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, let's get into Schultz here.
Yeah, this was kind of a surprise. I have to admit, I just was like, wait, what? Justin Schultz from the Pens, 2-year contract as a defenseman, 30 years old. So that kind of was interesting to me because our entire defensive line, that's the average age. They're all we're not looking at anybody younger. We've hit 30 across the board. And I don't know if this is a good call or not. And
It's very expensive. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I do like that it was $3 million this year and $5 million next year. So it's an interesting breakdown because I think it afforded us to be able to put the King into, we were able to get
Right.
the King and him this year for that $4 million.
right.
I don't know if this will screw us next year, but here's one thing to think about that people aren't talking about. We can expose people next year, right, to Seattle, and Seattle's going to have to get to a ceiling,
True.
right? So if he
True.
doesn't work out and he's not amazing and we don't think he's worth the $5 million, we could put him as one of the people we expose in that draft, which
Yeah.
is why I also think that it's important that we didn't sign Holtby, because we probably have to expose him in the following year too. So I'd rather expose a defensive player in my mind. And so if he works, great. We kind of got rid of Gudis. He can kind of fill into some of that role.
Yeah.
But I think he had an off year last year, so people are looking at that, kind of like Hank had a little bit of an off year. But when he's in his prime, I mean, Justin
He's
Schultz
good.
was a problem. I mean, he caused a lot of issues for the,
Right.
the Capitals in the past. I don't know if people remember that, but, I think he could be a really good defensive player.
Well, I
us.
think the one thing that stood out when watching a McClellan interview was that he considers him an offensive potential. And the only problem I have with that is he's 30. So we shouldn't be a potential. We should be you want to be like almost a guarantee. And I think that's where I'm kind of wavering on is this a good thing? Was this an impulse? Do we do this because he has experience? I don't know. He's one that I'm kind of really iffy with.
I think a lot of it they had to pull the trigger because of Michael Kempney, right? Because so with Dylan, we talked about Dylan last week that we wanted to bring him back. He did end up signing with us, and so that's good for 2 years at around the same amount of money that we're talking about here. So $4 million seems to be the average for like a really good defensive player. Now whether they'll show up for us or not, it's yet to be seen. But it's going to be interesting. So because Kempney is in long-term IR, his cap comes off the book. But when he comes back, it's going to put us in cap hell. So I do wonder if we're going to have to move him or somebody else, before he comes back, or even now, once the people are sort of settling with the draft picks and the free agencies and try to move him. I don't know if people are going to want to pick up somebody who's injured. So, I mean, that's going to be difficult.
Right.
You're not going to get equal value back. You may have to even give up something to have him taken off of your books. But I think that was a big push, and why we got a couple of other defenders, that we also, were able to pick up. Do you want to list off some of the other players that we were able to get?
Absolutely. So we have Paul Ledoux. He is another one. He's a defenseman we have for 1 year. Was drafted with the Kings on 2012. 28 years old. I'm okay with it. I don't mind him as a player. He's not one that sticks out due to injury, due to penalty minutes and things like that. I think that this was a smart move, and I think the 1 year contract is was a good thing to have. Cameron Schilling, I think we kind of shook our heads like, okay, you have a 32-year-old, 1 year, 2-way contract, alternate captain of the Hershey Bears. But he signed with the Caps in 2012. And, but he only played 6 games between 2012 and 2015 and then coming back. So you kind of want to have like that Cinderella story or something where you're like, hey, he played and not that much, and then he came back and he was really fantastic. But again, at 32, you just don't know what's going to happen, and I think that that's what's been so interesting in a lot of this.
I think that's going to be a def move for Hershey, though. I think he's going to be a veteran leader on that squad. I'd be interested to see if he makes this team. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what it really comes down to is like that whole 2-way and the alternate, the captain, or assistant captain, however they call it. It's like, that may just be where his leadership is going to be. And I'm so okay with that.
They need leadership down there so that way they develop talent. So I appreciate that as well.
Exactly. So I'm trying to think of who else do I have down here? Daniel Carr.
Okay.
So he is 28 years old. He is another 1 year, 2-way contract. Played for the Knights. Currently, was playing for the Preds, left winger.
Okay.
Now we're out of the defensive. Quote unquote, what I've heard and what I've read about, feisty and passionate about his game, which kind of tells you there's penalty minutes and other stuff there. However, he does lack quickness and speed, but he's a hard worker. But the con is he has dirty goals. So he's one that I'm like, sounds like a bad boy.
He kind of reminds me of like a Mike Knuble almost. Sort of like, gritty player, and but you still need some of that. And again, who knows if these guys will actually make them the main team? But it's important that we, as Carol was alluding to, keep those cupboards stocked. You never know who's going to go down and who needs to step up, or also just to push other people. So that way it's not a free give me to it. I mean, we lost a couple of people in Travis Boyd and a few other players in free agency. So, but I think the moves have been good overall. I've been very pleased with them. Is there any other that stand out that we want to talk about before we?
There was just that Trevor. I'm sure I'm going to botch his name. Trevor Van
Riemsdyk. Yes.
That's one of my favorite hockey names, man.
Yeah. Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Actually played for Carolina, right?
Yes,
he was a defensive player. I remember playing against him. He's a pretty solid defensive player. That's actually not a bad pickup. So we really stocked up on defensive players, and so
and that's what's like incredible.
So Kempney's going to have to be. Yeah, I just don't know if Kempney's going to. It sucks because I like him, but I think after a couple of these injuries, he's just not been the same player, and that's disappointing, right? For injuries to derail a player's time with us, but. I just, with all these other pickups, which I understand why we picked them all up, because we want to see what we got in training camp, and we know that we won't have him for a while, even if we do get him back this year. But
there's a difference in sports, like in any sport, where it's like 6 to 8 weeks out and 6 to 8 months out. And what's like with Kempney, I love number 6. I've always been a big supporter of his. I don't see how he can come back. And like Gil and I spoke last night that they never made reference to whether or not this specific injury was to the same leg. And
they rarely do, because they don't want to show weakness, right? One of the things that always bothered me about the NHL is it's like, upper body, lower body. They don't want to give anything away. And I get it. Like, I mean, in football, you see people target stuff when they find out, they give them a nudge on an arm or whatever. So I think that in hockey, they're trying to avoid that.
I thought it was his Achilles. I thought it was listed as his Achilles injury.
It was an Achilles injury, but the question is it the same leg that he had the other injury to?
Yeah.
Or was it a different? So sometimes when you're healing one side, the other side gets weak because you're not trying, and you favor the other, and it gets hurt. Or sometimes it happens structurally to the same leg, which actually could be worse, because then you've got 2 problems with one leg. So, hard to know.
But Trevor, like, I don't know, he's that one. You got a 2015 Cup with the Hawks, and then playing with the Hurricanes. So he starred along with LaPierre.
I think he could be really good for us. So, I think they did a really good job in free agency and the draft. I mean, we were very up against it in the cap situation. It'll be interesting to see once some of these names come back off of long-term IR, all that, how they'll sort it out, whether they'll move them ahead of time or just have that be a later Capitals issue. We'll see how that all shakes out. But I was very happy with it. I'm happy we had an opportunity to break it down, because I felt like it was worth chatting about a little bit and letting some of our Cap fans know about some of these moves.
Absolutely. And of course, like, I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out what's going to happen to Panik, what's good, there's a couple players, like, we know Gudis is gone, but there's a couple players that we're just not quite sure how they're going to fit into this. But I feel like the veteran players are ready to take on, we got to have the vets and we're going to have the younger players. And that's to me, always that fantastic balance of leadership and skill, and they can just go learn from each other. So that's great.
Yeah, I think your point about Panik is a good one. And I think our question about Kempney is also one. I think there's still a couple of moves to be made. GM, Brian McClellan has some great wherewithal, has got great conversations with different people around the league. And I think once people start to figure out these draft picks and the free agencies, they're going to come back around and want some of these other pieces and it'll be interesting to see how he packages them. I don't think that it's done. I don't know if we'll do a whole nother show about it, but at the same time, like I wouldn't be surprised if between now and when we talk again, at the beginning of the season, for preseason and all that sort of stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of moves aren't made to this team. The other thing I wanted to let people know is it looks like the start of the season may be pushed back a little bit. We originally thought it might be December. It looks like it might now be the beginning of January. They may actually start it with the Winter Classic. There's also rumor that maybe they would do it outdoors on an open sheet of ice, in Canada, which I saw some pictures of that. That would be really cool to do that, especially if you're not having fans anyway. You may as well do something scenic like that. I feel like that would be a great documentary movie. Like, I hope they have like 1 million cameras of that, because I think that would be a really cool story. So it'll be interesting to see where and when the season starts. We'll obviously stay tuned to Sports on the Hill podcast Facebook page. We'll definitely let people know when we know. We'll definitely, I'm sure, talk about it in our news and notes at the beginning of the show when we know for sure. But
sounds awesome.
Carol, before we let Anna go, any final thoughts before we end this segment?
No, it's been another great NHL season, shortened, but it is what it is. Hopefully, we can get things back to a little normal. Going into the off season, and they figure out when they want to start it. And it will probably won't be a full season, but hopefully it'll be more than 30 or 40 or something like that. But all we can do is wait and see. Hopefully, some of the moves that the Capitals are making are going to make them better, and they get back to the promised land, because I'm ready to go to another championship parade. We the last couple of seasons, and I'm ready to go back to another one. So I think they're in a good place, with the coach that you guys, was rooting for. He has a good pedigree, good history, still working on the Ovechkin deal. Hopefully they can get him locked up pretty soon, get that taken care of, and, get ready for training camp whenever they're ready to start. Get healthy, get well, and get playing some hockey the next season. Try to bring the cup back home.
Yeah, you make a great point about the defense. Because that coach is known as a great defensive coach. So I think that it's not a surprise that they picked up a lot of defensive players, because they're going to want to see which ones fit his system, right? Because just because we had them before or after or whatever, we don't know. I mean, his system is going to change it a bit. And I hope not too much. Obviously, we won the cup not that long ago. But at the same time, he's going to put his imprint on the team, which I want. I felt like the last coach didn't put enough of his imprint on the team. He was just like, what worked before worked, so I'm just going to leave it up to that, where it wasn't successful, right? So I think
talked about the inexperience,
right.
His first coaching gig, he didn't, he probably wasn't prepared to do a total overhaul, and he was going to see how things. He wanted to have some, I guess, continuity going into his first season, so he can try to have a better feel for the team. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in his favor.
Right, and they gave him a couple of seasons, right? It wasn't just they gave him 2 to try to figure it out. It's disappointing that it didn't, but obviously I'm excited about this. This is the coach that I wanted even before we had Trotz, so I'm excited to see what he can do, because it'd be cool to have defensive players play defense and offensive players play offense, and to see if that actually works out to our advantage.
Right.
It's a crazy concept, but
why not?
You got to get scoring from your D.
But I think he does. But I think it won't be as much as in the Trotz system. I think that the defensive players have to play more sound in a Laviolette system, and I think scoring might be a little down in his system. But if they can,
Trotz, the defense was solid when they went on that run. They was holding.
No, I'm not saying it wasn't, but I'm saying the defenders came up in Trotz's system in a way that they don't as much in a Laviolette-based system.
Yeah, I mean, the defense when they brought in Trotz, I feel like his defense is better than any defense I've seen from Laviolette's teams, because with the Nashville team, that's what he was known for, and he just brought that here. It just unfortunately took the Capitals a couple of 4 seasons to buy in and actually start doing what he asked of him, and then the whole system worked. You can't have 2/3 or 1/3 of the system work. You got to buy in on all levels. So I think when they were locked in, and I think his system is more sound than Laviolette. But I'm hoping it does change, because we still got that headache on again, off again, Orlov on the squad. So we're going to see if he can maybe, get him to be more consistent and not make some of those bonehead decisions that cost the team on the score sheet sometimes.
Well, now there's defensive pressure, right? We got a lot of players for these couple of spots, so the fire will be under him early and often to show up and or you'll be replaced. And he's a big contract. I wonder how easily it would be to move him, but at the same time, if you need a cap space to come off the books and he's not playing well to start the season, and we need to bring Kempney back, that could be a potential possibility as well. So we'll see how it is. I want to give a quick score update in the Atlanta Dodgers game. Atlanta's up 1-0 over the Dodgers in the top of the fourth, and as Carol's been alluding to, it's 20-3 now in the Chargers game. So the Saints are falling farther and farther behind.
Yeah, Drew Brees threw an interception, and Los Angeles went down and capitalized and got a touchdown. That was 20-3. This is starting to look like an upset in New Orleans tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And it would be an upset that we would all not pick. And poor Dujournay would have to write about. So hopefully that they're able to turn it on in the second half for all of our sakes. But I'm excited for your podcast will come out with Gil. If people want to check it out, go to sportsothp.com, click on the Power Play Point podcast button. That'll pop up in a new window, and it'll have all of their old episodes and when their new episode is available, which I'm sure will be shortly, that people can check it out. But if anything else that you want to let people know before we let you go?
No, just thank you again for another fun week. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to some really good football that's going to work in my pool favor. But and then, let's hope that January 1st, even if it's bumped to the middle of January, I'm okay as long as it's January for the beginning, to start the NHL. I think we're ready. I think it's, clean slate, and definitely need to put 2020 behind us.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we get fans or not. That seems to be a big sticking point on. They thought maybe they'd push it back just a little bit to try to get fans in there. I would rather them start earlier without fans because I want hockey now. So if that's my own personal, thing, but I understand fans want to get back there as well, and the teams want to make some money off that. So it'll be interesting to see ultimately where they lie on that. But thank you as always. It was been a great season.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you helping us break down some of these free agencies.
Yep. And we'll be in touch. And Carol, I'm following you on your car brigade, whatever you want to call it. I hope that you're getting major business your way.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking to close on my first sale tomorrow. I was on the floor for the first day and looking to close that first sale in my car sales professional career. So I appreciate that. And I was going to give a shout out at the end of the show. But yeah, if you're looking for a new ride, pre-owned certified, come holler at your boy out of Honda, Waldorf, Master Carroll Ford, or CP3, and I'll take care of you, give you the best deal with the best customer service you'd never seen.
There you go. Sounds good. Very legit. I like it. Well, thank you so much, Anna. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good night. Take it easy.
Sounds good. All right. Well, we've got another great show in the books. This one's, again, 2.5 hours. Next week, I do want to do a little update to people. We're going to start a little bit later. We're shifting to just baseball and football. It's an odd year, right? We've never had just baseball and football as the only two topics in all 5 years. We've always had hockey and basketball, thrown in there at least a little bit. But we're gonna try it out. We're gonna try it at 8 o'clock time, a little bit later. That way we can also sprinkle in a little bit of Monday Night Football talk in there as well. So tune in a little bit later. So 8 o'clock, we'll start off with our Washington football team coverage, and then we'll end the show with our baseball talk, where we'll talk about, by that time, we'll know who's in the World Series. So that will be on episode 199, and episode 200 will recap the results of the World Series, which is kind of a fun thing to talk about. So again, a little bit later time, 8 o'clock, but same great programming. We'll talk football and baseball next week. And that's all I've got. Carol, any final thoughts from you?
Go check out the website, as always, SportsOTHP.com. Like I said, if you're looking for a new or used ride, hit me up, inbox. If you got my number, call me, text me. I'll be at work tomorrow. Holler at me. We just had a great used car sale this past weekend. We always got sales going on. So come holler at me. You know, that new ride. 2020 been crazy. It's going to 2021 with a new ride, a new attitude.
Real quickly before we jump off, I just want to remind people, great podcast this week with Walter Roberts. If you missed that earlier, highly suggest you listen to our conversation with the Flea about championships and about playing with the Washington football team and playing for Vince Lombardi. It's a really interesting listen. I highly recommend it. It's also on the website if you want to watch it. Also, Carroll killed it with our pregame and postgame last week. He was very fiery postgame. It was fun to be on it with him. If you missed that, you can also check that on our website or his YouTube channel. Or also check for all the latest stuff, facebook.com/SportsOTHP, or search Sports on the Hill podcast. You can find us on all listening platforms.
No doubt as always. And you're going to check it out tomorrow on the podcasting platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, and a couple of other ones that I can't remember right now. But if you go look for it, it's probably out there. CP3, live from the lab, Robbie G, live from the man cave, Sports OTHP, True Radio Network, DC Sports Law the Politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. And we out. See you next week.